Welcome back to the Sports Complex on a Friday afternoon. A big show today, extra hour of the show here today on the Sports Complex. Going to be talking a ton of Texas OU all show long till 6:45 when we give you up to Vandegrift football. But until then, man, Rob Baber is going to be joining me in studio in just a minute. And out at Terry Black's Barbecue out in Dallas, getting ready for the big game, my man Aaron Hogan. He's got some friends out with him. Aaron, how you doing today, brother?
Good man, good man. Terry Black's Barbecue, got a great crowd building in Deep Ellum in East Dallas, East downtown Dallas, a really hip spot. But man, Terry Black's Barbecue out of Lockhart, Texas, growing like crazy. And we've been hanging out here this afternoon and will be all the way until 7 o'clock. Or Vandegrift football, as you said. And yes, friends are here. Jerry Hamilton and Bobby Burton from Inside Texas, who've been here since about 1:30, gorging themselves on Terry Black's Barbecue. Did a web stream out here for the Inside Texas crowd, which was really cool. How are you guys?
Ready for the game, man. We've been talking. It seems like 3 weeks we've been talking about the game, and I don't think there's much more that can be said other than we find some more keys to victory. We'll come up with something else at this point.
But yes, I mean it's game time, and we're what did you say? I heard you say the official hourly clock time.
Yeah,
I think it's officially like 19 hours till kickoff.
Nice.
It's 19 hours right now. Yeah.
Inside 24 hours. Of course, Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton from Inside Texas doing the On Texas football thing, and we are here with the Horn, Patrick and Rod back in the studio. But man, thank you to Terry Black. As we said, out of Lockhart, Texas. But Bobby, I didn't know that you used to own a barbecue restaurant yourself.
Yeah, I did. It's called Judge Bean's Barbecue in Nashville, Tennessee. Had one and sold it in December of this past year. Had it for about 15 years. It's a great
lot
time.
of work, but they're fun.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. One of the reasons I sold it is so I could actually focus on Texas football more and on 3 sports. So it's been fun.
Your review of Terry Black's Barbecue here in Dallas?
Delicious. They do brisket a little bit better than we did. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And man, this is such a cool place. I was here last year, not doing any radio, and I was like, Terry, I got to come back. This place is perfect. Our audience can gather and eat some amazing food and have some drinks and some Bud Lights and get this thing ready to go. Right in downtown, there's parking here. There's a parking lot here and across the street. So come on out if you're driving up 35. Traffic wasn't too bad for me. There's a little spot in Belton there as Colleen merges with Belton that it'll bog down a little bit, but you'll be good. Come join us. We're here all the way until 7 o'clock, and it's Texas and Oklahoma at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. We go all the way to Vandegrift football. Have you seen Mike Adams' kid play quarterback?
I have not. It's only on tape. I've not seen him in person. I did see Vandegrift last year early in the season. I was at one of their games, and I did not pick them to go to state after watching that game. I underestimated them. That is a really well-coached team and well-coached program. He's done a great job with Vandegrift. Obviously, they have the lineman Frazier committed to Michigan in this class. Last year they had the kid committed to Clemson, signed with Clemson. So they had a really good offensive line, but that's a really well-coached team.
Yeah, Drew Sanders does a
great job. Drew Sanders does a great job with that program.
And Deuce Adams is the son of Mike Adams, if you remember, and his brother is his sophomore receiver. Deuce is a dude, man. That guy can make plays. Because last year they had the kid Buchanan who ended up going to Baylor to play baseball, who took him to the state title game. Now they got Deuce who can run all over the place. He's got a rocket for an arm. He's a Louisville commit, going to Louisville. Yeah, big-time player.
By the way, I don't know if Louisville last week they were undefeated. I might be wrong.
They are. They're playing.
They're still undefeated, right?
Yeah, Notre Dame tomorrow. Notre Dame.
So now they're going to have a loss.
Yeah. Well, there's a bunch of sneaky cool games this weekend. Obviously, Texas hoping they're not one of these underdogs that are favorites that gets knocked off. But, Georgia and Kentucky's kind of a weird game. Aggies are underdogs at home to A&M. And then Notre Dame on the road at Louisville coming off Clemson. Clemson into Duke, and now this game. A lot of those little games where there could be some upset specials, but we don't think so at Texas and Oklahoma. You talked to us this morning, Jerry, and appreciate that on Rod and I show. But lines of scrimmage definitely in favor of the Texas Longhorns. That's credit to Sark and Kyle Flood and Bo Davis. They've been diligent about the big humans and building that. That's the biggest single advantage in this game is up front on both sides.
Yeah, I think look when Sarkisian was hired here. And then you knew Kyle Flood was coming in with him as the offensive coordinator, offensive line coach. And you started hearing the term large human, right? Big humans, large humans, almost immediately. And this is the year where you've seen all that work in recruiting come to fruition for Texas. I mean, they are massive on the offensive line. When Bobby and I were at the first couple of fall practices, the open media sessions, our biggest takeaway when we went and wrote something on Inside Texas or went to On Texas Football was this team looks like an SEC team now. They have the talent that's been missing at all positions as a whole in the program, and it really started up front on the offensive line, which has been a tough spot for a decade before that.
They have big guys up front on both sides, and they have speed and skill on the perimeter.
Yeah.
And then add Steve Sarkisian in, who obviously is a quarterback guy. You add that element of great quarterback play, which Texas, other than Sam Ehlinger, has probably missed for about 10 to 15 years. You start adding all of those elements together, and that's where you get to where Texas is sitting at 5-0 and a 5.5 favorite over OU, as both teams are undefeated, headed to the Cotton Bowl tomorrow.
And you know what illustrates the work Sark and his staff have done? Tory Beckton, who we should always mention, because this the player development, Aaron, has been amazing. And to me, there's no farther you have to look than Jonathan Brooks. And not that you develop a running back's instincts, right? But the depth and talent recruited. Now, he was committed already, but still, they've developed him. And the thing about it is these guys have stayed. They haven't left when they weren't playing. I mean, that's the thing. You have guys like Jonathan Brooks who have winner's DNA. And he's waited his turn, and now it's his turn, and he's making the most of his opportunities. And that's when a program really ascends, is when you've recruited enough of these talented players, you develop in your offseason program and from a skill standpoint on the field. And those guys, they're around and sometimes the word culture is overused, but to Sark's point, the guys stick around when the culture's good and you start winning games and you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And there's a lot of those guys, but Jonathan Brooks is the one for me, Bobby and Aaron, that really stands out. He could have easily left last year. He could be starting at Houston or starting at a lot of other places, but he stuck it out. He was waiting on his time, and he's making the most of his time. That's great player development and program development.
Especially, Bobby, considering, a 5-star over top of him and from C.J. Baxter, and actually won the starting job. In this day and age, a lot of guys had bolted out of there, and people would have understood after sitting behind Bijan and Roschon, waiting his turn. And here comes C.J., team player, and I give that credit to Sark that it's a culture that's really good because they're able to go out and poach the portal for their own needs. In specific spots, like a Jalen Catalon or an Adine Mitchell, who just take you to that next level, plug those holes that you may have, and add depth in key places.
One of the biggest things for me with Sark that has been a positive, a lot of coaches take over jobs, and basically if they didn't recruit you, sayonara, right? They don't care about you. I mean, you're not their kid, right? Well, Jonathan Brooks, Jalen Ford, Jaron Thompson, Byron Murphy, Tavondre Sweat.
Yep.
I mean, Barron Sorrell was not originally one of his commits. I mean, just think when Jerry talks about development and culture, the two actually go hand in hand because Steve Sarkisian didn't just cast those guys aside. He actually took them under his wing and he's developed them. When you talk about development for me, I think of Jalen Ford.
Yeah.
I mean, because how long has it been since Texas had a really, really good linebacker? I mean, it's been a decade.
Yeah.
Acho and Jordan Hicks and those guys. I mean, they've had good linebackers through the years, but I don't count Joe Osai as a linebacker.
No.
He's more of an edge. And so
Malik Jefferson was a productive player, but he wasn't the player Jalen Ford is.
Right, exactly. He's not at all. He's not Big 12 defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
And so I feel like you look at that, and here's a guy that wasn't his kid, right? Wasn't the guy that he recruited, but they've come in and they've blossomed and they bought into it.
Yeah.
Not every coach does that. I mean, look, Deion Sanders blew it up at Colorado. I mean, and that's okay because maybe that's what Colorado needed. That's not necessarily what Texas needed and got it going.
I know Big 12 Media Day's first year when Sark sat down with us, he said, first couple things he said were we have the best offensive line and defensive line coach in America. That's where we're starting this program because he'd worked with Kyle and obviously Bo Davis. His track record goes without saying, and that's where it started. And I think the players that stuck understood that Sark was genuine, saying, "Hey, I want you guys to be here," but also, damn, these are good coaches. These are the guys that can develop me. I want to be a part of that, and we're seeing, and that's where all this depth comes from because guys haven't left unless they knew they weren't going to play at the very bottom of the depth chart and then to target the guys. Also, it's interesting to me that Sark realized when he went to the NFL, about the big humans. He's admitted that's really where it crystallized for him. He was at Alabama dominating, realizing, man, we're kicking ass up front, and I got all these skill players. They can't get to us. Then he goes to the NFL, and the Falcons have this undersized line, and they can't compete with the 49ers of the world in these big physical. He's like, that'll never happen again.
Right.
If I ever get another bite at the apple, I'm going big humans.
And who is his offensive line coach at the same time? Kyle Flood.
Yeah, because you just can't win. I mean, and you can in the college level, Bobby, you can overwhelm.
Yes.
If you could
dominate.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Georgia.
doesn't happen. That very rarely happens in the NFL.
And that doesn't mean you dominate the first quarter. It means as the game moves along and those big bodies lean on you long enough that you dominate when you need to. And we've talked about keys to the game. One of my big ones for Texas is, look, Alabama's a more talented defense than Oklahoma, no question about it. One thing Sark and Texas have been able to do this year is run the ball when they want to and when they have to.
Yeah.
And for Texas fans tomorrow, if Sark's running the ball when he wants to and when he has to effectively tomorrow, you're going to be celebrating at the end of the game. I truly believe that.
We're live here at Terry Black's Barbecue in downtown Dallas, Main Street, just east of 30. Here in Deep Ellum is what they call this area. Very cool spot. And when you're done here tonight eating barbecue and listening to our show, you can wander up and down. There's a punch bowl social and all kinds of stuff. This can be your spot tonight. If it's an Uber ride away from your hotel or you're looking for a place to come out and eat dinner, this is your spot heading up here. Patrick Davis back in the Horn headquarters. Patrick, are you feeling pretty good about this game? Inside of 24 hours out, my friend?
You know, it's one of those games that you look at, and because every single category seems to kind of be favoring Texas, that it's actually made me more nervous by Thursday, Friday. Because it's all going too well that this story doesn't end this way in a rivalry game. So I'm a little bit more worried about it than I was on Wednesday, because Wednesday everything points to Texas being able to handle Oklahoma, but I'm a little bit more worried. We'll point out Rod Babers now joining us in the studio here as well. We got the full horn power going.
What's up, gentlemen?
Here we go. Hey, and Rod, if everything we just said is true and what Patrick just said, he's getting more leery the more confident Texas fan base is. Why is the line dropping? That's what everybody's trying to figure out. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
somebody
that is
knows something.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know. Maybe it's the injuries to JT Sanders and Ryan Watts. Maybe Vegas figures they're a little bit more serious than Texas is leading on. But I actually, JT Sanders is going to play, but there's so many other weapons, and Texas can offensively, they're so malleable. They can be a lot of different things offensively. Yes, not having JT Sanders, if that is the case, knock on wood, hope it's not, your best matchup nightmare, not having it available really does change the complexion. But Texas still offensively, they are not a one-trick pony. They got a lot of different ways they can beat you. So defensively, Ryan Watts not playing, maybe that's something, if he's not available, maybe that's something that they're looking at too, that you can see Dylan Gabriel, who's the best quarterback Texas faced, attacking that secondary, especially younger guys in that secondary.
Rod, can I ask you a question? Because this is with Watts potentially out, do you see OU's quick passing game to the outside being more successful since Watts can really play through that receiver blocking game that OU likes to put into play?
Yeah, that's a good thing about the secondary, right? These guys have closed pretty quick, and they've been, so far, they've been adequate open field tacklers too. J.J. Barron has been exceptional at being able to stop that, the short, quick game and being able to close in on it and make plays. I do think the younger guys, Malik Muhammad, from what I've seen at that boundary corner, I do like how physical he plays. And that's the thing about Ryan Watts. He's a physical corner. Hell, I think Jerry might translate to even safety at the next level, but he's a physical corner. And remember, the coaches talked about how they liked how physical Malik Muhammad was. That he was physical in practice, that he was a guy that was forcing fumbles, physical in the running game. Hopefully that translates, but for young guys, that's always a question in this game.
Well, Aaron, what's interesting to me is Rod brought up a point that it kind of took me to something else. I was at DeSoto High School yesterday, and I was talking to Byron Washington, one of the largest human beings I've ever seen as a junior in high school. He's 6'7" and about 385.
I saw that picture. It's like stunning.
It's stunning.
And now I've seen your son, and I was like, okay, your son's not that little.
Right. But what Byron said to me that stuck out was all the kids in Dallas are going to Texas.
Wow.
And you think about the game tomorrow, Manny Malik Muhammad, two-time state champion at South Oak Cliff, his first game in the Cotton Bowl in Texas OU tomorrow. Jonte Cook won a state Tylen DeSoto got DeSoto over the finish line last year. Byron Washington was a teammate of his first game in the Texas OU rivalry.
He's an O-lineman, I'm assuming.
Yes, he is an O-lineman. Anthony Hill, Denton Ryan, first game in the Texas OU rivalry tomorrow. There's some big-time guys that Sark's won recruiting battles over Oklahoma, A&M, and Alabama in this DFW area. They're playing in their first game tomorrow, Bobby, in Texas OU. It's a big moment for those guys, but they're all from state championship programs.
Winners.
I think it's a big game for everybody.
Yes.
I mean, I'm going to be blunt. I mean, no matter where you're from, I was talking to somebody in the audience earlier, it's their first Texas OU game. And until you've been there, you just can't explain to people what it is, what it's like. 50% of the audience is yelling and screaming half the time.
Yeah.
The other 50% has their head bowed a little bit.
Yeah,
It
they're
is
yelling
bizarre,
at you.
and maybe one of the coolest experiences you can have as a fan, because it's either all on or all off. But absolutely love that venue. And Jerry, I know it's a big game for Dallas, but it's big for the entire state of Texas and for the programs. Look, you mentioned this. Brent Venables lost 49-0 last year, guys. That's big. That's the worst loss in their program's history to Texas. He comes in and loses 2 in a row to Texas. That's not going to be that's not what OU fans want to see out of their coach.
And Rod and I, we've been talking about this all week on Texas football. That's why Brent Venables, he's not playing a conservative game plan. You cannot come in and play conservative. After 49-0 last year, there's no way you can get on a bus and go back to Norman if you lose coaching a conservative game. Bob Stoops did not coach conservatively against Texas, and I expect Brent Venables to throw the kitchen sink on both sides of the ball tomorrow, because after 49-0 last year, he can't go home playing conservative with a loss. No chance.
Agreed.
Well, and when I was driving up here, Rod, I heard Jim Rome on our station interview Gerald McCoy. He had Gerald McCoy on, and he was talking about how, every time I've seen Brent Venables, we reminded him 49-0, 49-0.
I bet he's heard it about a million times.
Yeah, that's all he's heard. He said, I'm guaranteeing you it's up in the locker room. The number's up in the locker room. That is a motivational piece, Rod. Rod, you were a part of a couple of, I'm sorry to bring this up, a couple of one-sided games at Texas. I mean, that stings. And losing's one thing, but getting run off the field's a whole different animal.
Yeah, no, you carried that shame with you in the offseason, and I guarantee Oklahoma has. There's no doubt about it. So they've obsessed about it the entire offseason, and Jeff Lebby knows what's at stake, and I think they're going to come out early and try to match the energy of of Texas early on. So we know Sark's opening script has been fantastic in both of these contests. So I think they're going to come out early and try to match Texas energy. I think they're going to throw a lot of things at Texas, either to get on top of Texas early or try to force Texas to start slow. And I think those exotics will come, as Jerry said, in all 3 phases of the game.
Yeah, I got to think, Patrick, that Brent Venables and his staff watching film of this would sign up right now for the Kansas, and middle of the third quarter, it's 16-13. End of the third quarter against Wyoming is 10-10. I mean, this is what you – and Rod and I have talked about this all week long, Patrick, about bend but don't break. Yes, you want to be aggressive, but I heard Bobby say it on y'all's on Texas stream. Maybe show blitz and look like you're going to be aggressive, and then back off, and because make Texas go and force them into the red zone and see if they can score touchdowns and not settle for field goals. That's how, to me, they can hang around and then force a turnover here and there to be in this game. They want that fourth quarter game. I still think that favors Texas, because we've seen Texas be able to kick it in gear and go Secretariat when they need to in the fourth quarter. And Oklahoma's not as deep as Texas, but Patrick, that's the recipe. I've heard Rod talk all week about paths to victory. Dylan Gabriel has to play great, and they've got to get this game into the fourth quarter within a score and get their crowd behind it and the belief behind it that they can win this football game.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I think that just picking up first downs in the first quarter is going to be big, because Texas fans are going to come in hot and they're going to come in loud. And if you pick up a few first downs and just kind of quiet them down, just take the wind out of the sails of Texas fans, and then you feel like that's such a moral victory for an Oklahoma team that if you're able to quiet this Texas crowd down a little bit, you feel pretty good. You can take a shot over the top, and if you get the right personnel in for Texas, you may get 7 points on the board before Texas even sees the ball. Or, Sark's first series tends not to be a scoring play, except for maybe last year at Oklahoma. But if you can get that 7 points on the board first, kind of quiet down the audience by picking up just a few first downs, just doing what Dylan Gabriel does, just picking up short yardage passes, just kind of move it down. Throw the ball to Drake Stoops to piss off Texas fans. All that stuff. If you can do that, I think that's a solid path to kind of setting your tone in the game early And then it is, if you can get to the second half where you're 3 down or 3 up, you feel really good going into the second half. After last year getting beat 49-0, it kind of resets the entire slate, and it becomes Texas OU where both teams are good again.
Absolutely. We are live at Terry Black's Barbecue in downtown Dallas for this part of it. It's myself, Jerry Hamilton from Inside Texas, Bobby Burton from Inside Texas, Rob Babers and Patrick Davis back in the Horn headquarters. Special extra broadcast today. It's the Red River Rivalry, number 119, the final as members of the Big 12 Conference. Patrick, do you have a big fat poll? Patrick's big fat poll today that you need to announce, or what are we doing? What are we getting people involved? What's your question of the day?
All right, let's hit the big fat poll then.
Patrick's big fat poll of the day on the Horn.
This one's an easy one. Text in 512-447-3776. We say you guys drive the show. I just try to keep it on the rails. 512-447-3776. Which quarter for you is the most important for Texas on Saturday? What quarter is most important for you? So I'm only giving you 4 options. But do you say that it's so important that they come out strong and just put a stranglehold on this and don't allow OU to even get started? Or is this going to be a fourth quarter game? Is this you come out at half and you need to make a strong statement because it's going to be going? Is this going into half? Tell me on the text line, 512-447-3776. Hit us up on the text line. Let us know what you think is going to be the most important quarter. Tell me why as well. We'll try and get to those. If you got any questions for Aaron Hogan and the guys out at Terry Black's, send that in. Rob Babers with me as well. If you got any questions about the Texas game y'all want answered, we'll try and get to those as well. 512-447-3776. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll go back to Aaron Hogan at Terry Black's. Rob Babers in studio with me. The whole Horn crew at full power here on a Friday afternoon, getting ready for Texas OU. It is 4:23, and OU still sucks. Here on the Horn, 101.9 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex. Special 3-hour show on a Friday afternoon. It is a 512 Friday, so we're still playing all you great local bands you can go check out around town this weekend. This is Tinted Vision, and they are playing the ABGB down in Austin tonight. So if you want to go to ABGB down in South Austin, check out Tinted Vision. Bunch of young guys. They're getting older. They've been young guys for too long. That's what happens. You get older as young guys.
Happens to us all.
Happens to everybody.
Happens
Even
to everybody.
they were high school kids when I met them. I think they're all graduated now. But Tinted Visions, you can go check out ABGB. On the show today, we're a special 3-hour show because we're talking Texas OU. We've got my man Rob Babers in studio with me and out at Terry Black's Barbecue in Dallas. Man, Aaron Hogan. Aaron, you're going to come back tonight because you got the pregame show tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah, you're talking more Texas OU, 9 to 11 tomorrow morning here on the Horn. You can join me and Jacob Standard out at the Fieldhouse at the Crossover tomorrow for the watch party. But how's it feeling right now in Dallas?
Feeling good. It is great. I mean, Terry Black's, I had some lunch. I told Rob this morning when I left at 11 or so, I wasn't going to eat anything. I was going to get here having not eaten and I over-ordered, Rod. I over-ordered.
Of course you did.
I still have I ate some of it. I got dinner and maybe a snack later from what I ordered just for lunch today. But that's the way it goes. But it's phenomenal. Some pork ribs, some brisket here is unbelievable. And I couldn't do the big beef rib. It just looked too like Fred Flintstone, enormous. I didn't need like a steak in the middle of the day. Man, they are amazing. The sides here are so good too. But yeah, this is the perfect spot. And so come on out. It's kind of an old school round table vibe. People rolling in here, parking. One thing I always said when I talked to Terry last year about this, Terry Black, you guys have parking. So,
Yes.
there's nothing worse than trying to go to a place and you're driving around looking for a place to park in a downtown area. They've got a parking lot right behind us. It's theirs all the way back here, and then another one across that's public parking for the city. So easy to get in, easy to get out, food, drinks, and good times at Terry Black's
And
Barbecue.
great weather today.
I know, yeah. But now we're
Amazing
sitting
weather.
right next to the pit, so it's a little warmer where we
Well,
are.
look, that's why I let Bobby Burton sit at the end.
I think I'm going to have smoke inhalation by the time this is over.
We're right outside of the 4 or 5 huge pits. Terry told me that he gets those made out in Dripping Springs. He's got a guy out in Dripping Springs to make all his pits for all of his restaurants, including here. New one coming online, too, by the way, in Waco, right outside of Chip and JoJo's place, the whole Magnolia deal, the Magnolia bit right by McLean Stadium. So, yeah, awesome places. This is a good spot. So come on out and eat. And, Rod, I'll bring you some barbecue. You just text me your order, and I'll bring it home. We'll have it for breakfast
Just
tomorrow.
bring some ribs, man. Just some ribs. That's all you got to do. Just bring me some ribs. You all good, brother.
Pork or beef or both?
Pork. No, that beef rib. You're right. That's intimidating. I'm with you. That thing is huge, man. You got to double team that thing. I need a partner with it.
Hey, Rod, I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
Not many, maybe a few listeners that have played in the game will know. What's that locker room like before the game?
Oh, yeah, it depends. Yeah, I remember after we lost in 2000, it was a pretty quiet locker room. That was
What about before, leading up to? Can you sense the nerves? Can you see it? I mean, what's it like being in that locker room leading up to the game?
Well, I think everybody understands once you have a veteran team, everybody understands the magnitude, and they understand the emotional charge of that game, and they understand how you have to kind of the intensity, right? And that, I don't think the young guys get it. They don't really understand it. So you need a veteran team to understand it. And I've heard there are some locker rooms that are different. Some locker rooms, they get loose. All right. If you are really, now Texas, I think maybe the VY in 2005, that was a different locker room from what I heard, right? Those guys were really confident. They knew, oh man, we are a better team and we're on our way we got a higher purpose, right? And actually Oklahoma's just in our way. And that's rare for a team on either side to have that kind of attitude, but that was a special team, and a special team could do that, but sometimes that special team is matched up against another special Oklahoma team. That's what made those 2000s teams really, really good, because you had Oklahoma, who was competing for national championships consistently, and then Texas as well was also in that conversation. Hopefully we're getting back to that point, and that's why there was so much pressure about this game. You almost felt like, and you talked about this too, Jerry, that after that game, you felt like the season was over at times. That was a emotional letdown that because the magnitude of it that you really couldn't quantify, and you had to pick yourself back up because that's not the end of the season. It just felt that way because of how big that loss was and how big the win is, because the win catapults you into a different conversation.
Yeah, it does. And speaking of the locker room, what's it like, Rob, when you come out of the locker room and you're like face to face with OU? There's like 4 cops. Like they could break up a fight if something really wanted to happen right there. I mean, the locker room for both teams. I mean, you come out into the same hallway. I mean, that's unique to this rivalry. In addition to everything else, that's unique to this rivalry.
Yeah, I don't know if they do it exactly at the same time like they used to. They used to actually let them come out literally at the same time. And it was you're right, that was anarchy. They can't do that. That was mayhem. They were just asking for some fight to happen. Now I do think they got some more safeguards in place, but they don't let them come out at the same time. But when I was there, yeah, they would come out, or you would see guys. There were confrontations happening. That, yeah, I actually don't endorse that either, because I just talked about the emotional intensity is way too high. I could easily see somebody getting slugged or somebody doing something crazy at that point. You can't entice the guys like that. So, yeah, I think they've actually kind of gone away from having them do it at the same time in the tunnel.
Yeah. And they finally put the tarp over the tunnel instead of just letting people hang down and Oklahoma fans drop stuff down in there.
Exactly.
Yeah, like beer cans and spare teeth.
Or tooth.
Or spare tooth. Yeah, there you go. I tell you what, Rod, this reminds me of Brian Irwin earlier this week. I was talking to him. He was a former GA at Texas. And, Rod, he said that what used to happen is Texas would come out first, and then the GAs and the volunteer assistants and all the equipment guys would be behind you guys, and Oklahoma then would come out after you guys. And so basically the only line of defense between the back of the Texas line and
the short straw guys, the short straw guys.
And the front of the OU line were these GAs that, they're 5'10" and 160 pounds, and they were looking down the entire – they were trying to keep the Oklahoma team off you guys, and it was like useless.
And Bobby, to hear him now, was the time of their life.
Yeah, exactly. He wouldn't trade it for anything.
That's like being in the middle of the running of the Bulls.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you're not going to do much here.
They were actually the cape. Right? They weren't the bull they weren't the attacker or the attack. They were just the cape.
If you're just tuning in and on the horn, we're live here at Terry Black's Barbecue. Terry Black just walked in. We'll say hi to him coming up at some point. But Jerry Hamilton is here. Bobby Burton from Inside Texas giving us some time. Of course, Rod and I have been working with you guys on the On Texas Football channel, which is really cool. We got a great crowd here and building to watch us this afternoon. But you guys have built an incredibly loyal audience on the On Texas Football channel, not just in Austin and Central Texas, but all over the world coming in here for this game. That's really cool. Bobby, you're on the forefront of the YouTube thing and the power of the reach that you can have with that type on top of radio and apps and those kind of things.
No, we love it. I think that it gives gives Longhorn fans who aren't in Austin an opportunity to be part of the community that they feel and have grown up to be so close to. You know what I mean? They don't have to be from Austin. They can be from anywhere. From Midland. I mean, we had a guy on today from Abu Dhabi.
Wow.
I mean, give me a break,
Wow.
And at the same time, it's once you're a Longhorn fan, I think you're always a Longhorn fan.
Sure.
And I think that's what YouTube and the internet really allows for, is for people to mix and meet from very different areas of the world and country. We had people come up to us from North Carolina today.
Yep.
They're in town just for this game. Wanted to make it a little bit of a bucket list item. They were here. Just it's been awesome.
For me, we do the coffee and football show from 8 to 9 in the mornings. It's always awesome to see where everybody's checking in from in the comments section. I mean, literally, it's a new town, new city every day that I haven't seen on the comments section before, and it gives you energy. I mean, it really energizes you to start the day and start a show when everybody's saying checking in from here, checking in from here, checking in from here. There may be 300 people saying that. Yep. It gives you a lot of energy. It's really cool.
Well, and Rod, you know this, doing what you do with them and with us on the radio and the app, and we get texts from people all over the world
Exactly.
listening. And it's only going to get better this year and then into the SEC when we're able to meet these folks at these big SEC road trips and Ann Arbor, Michigan next September. I mean, this is big time.
Hey, I'm calling one remote right now. Floribama in Perdido Key.
You already told us that.
Hey, you've been there. People have been. That is the best place I've ever been to watch college football.
That's on the Alabama-Florida border.
Yeah, on the Florida side, so they don't have to state income tax, obviously. But smart businessman. But they have 3 live music stages. It's grown so big right now. But I was in there the day of the Texas-Baylor game. I've been down in going to schools in Florida and Alabama. Amazing place to watch college football. There were Alabama fans, Tennessee fans, almost every team you can imagine was in there. And all of them hated Alabama because Alabama was playing right against Ole Miss. But I was just thinking, what was that like the night Texas beat Alabama?
Oh, yeah.
What was it like in Floribama? And I said at that point, I told Bobby, I think I told you, I said, that's a place to do a remote if I've ever seen one. It was amazing.
Yeah, no.
And that's the SEC
hands
move.
up, because it starts next year. And Rod, I mean, now one of the things you and I have talked about quite a bit is so many guys on this Texas football team don't ever plan on playing a game in the SEC. They don't. They want this year to leave a mark, finish a bookend of the first Big 12 championship and the last. They didn't win as many as they probably should have over the course of the 2.5 decades of this conference. But at the same time, this group has a chance to leave a legacy. Back-to-back Oklahoma wins, maybe something special here in the Big 12 and beyond. That's what I love about this team and the leadership. You just talked about it takes a special locker room, Rod. This team has a lot of leaders at the top that feels like they can navigate this team and get them through tough fourth quarters and tough times.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell that this team has great football character, right? They have high football IQ. They respond well to adversity. This is a group that's, I always say there are 2 types of Texas football players, and you can evolve into one or the other, or devolve into one or the other. There are guys that come to play for Texas and guys that come to play at Texas, and there is a big difference. The guys that come to play at Texas, hey, they want to know what Texas can do for them. The guys that come to play for Texas, they're trying to make sure they leave the program better than they found it. They want to know what they can do for the program, the Rojo type guys. You got a lot of guys on this team that came here to play for Texas, and even the guys that originally probably were at Texas guys, now they're for Texas guys. There's a big difference. And the best teams I played on at Texas, most of the team were guys who came to play for Texas. They were trying to do something for the program, and everything else will work itself out. And I think you got a lot of guys with that kind of attitude.
That's a great point, Rod Babers. Great point.
Yeah, and they do. And, Bobby, they won't play in the SEC, right? I mean, the Jalen Ford, all the guys we talked about that came back, all the guys, Quinn Ewers included, that would like to be in April's draft, they've got a chance to leave, as Rod always tells me, leave it better than you found it, and really start something special with Sark and this group for the long haul, because the recruiting's still going good, and that doesn't seem like it's going to slow down. But that's exciting to have that much leadership on this team.
I think experience is what's helping this team. I mean, we talked about it earlier. You have guys like Jalen Ford. You have Jaron Thompson. You have a guy like Jalen Catalon that comes in and immediately takes some leadership in the room. Jahdae Barron, Byron Murphy, Tavondre Sweat. I mean, look, Texas has about 10 to 15 guys that are juniors and seniors that are playing major roles on this team. That's what we've been waiting on, is a team that matures and has talent simultaneously. Yeah, Texas hasn't had that in a long time. They've had talent sporadically, but they haven't had talent and leadership going on at the same time, to me.
And then, as you talked about earlier, these young guys like Anthony Hill and Manny Muhammad and these guys that are kind of sprinkled in you got guys plugging gaps at the top, but also, man, some real talented players. And, Rod, you and I talked about it this morning. I'd like to get your thoughts here in the afternoon on Anthony Hill's impact in this game. We saw it against Alabama. Jalen Catalon's not played a lot, but maybe he's big in this game. And then Anthony Hill getting after Dylan Gabriel, being in that pass rush, being a guy who can really go after him. We saw it against Alabama, against Jalen Milroe, using that elite speed to become a problem, especially on obvious passing downs.
Yeah, I mean, that's, to me, I think it's going to be the issue for Oklahoma, right? They haven't faced a pass rush like Texas. And, we'll see if Texas has an issue with the run game. I don't anticipate Oklahoma all of a sudden, their running game growing wings overnight and becoming a really good running game against one of the best rush defenses in the country. I don't think it's going to happen. I think this game is going to come down to Dylan Gabriel, because that's a Dylan Gabriel-centric offense, and whether he can make plays against that Texas secondary in that back seven. And if that's the case, you got to pressure them early and often. If Texas doesn't get organic pressure, I can definitely see and predict predictable passing situations, like you said, either after Texas shuts down the run game, them putting Anthony Hill in some very diverse pass rushing situations. I'd move him around Micah Parsons style and find him a matchup. Use twists and stunts in games up front, as my man Jerry said earlier, and just try to find that guy a way that he can get into the backfield and use his athleticism. That's what you want to do. You want to create opportunities for him to exploit and expose matchup advantages.
Yeah, they haven't seen an athlete like this at Oklahoma this year, or a defense like this. And Jerry, I read one of your write-ups on Inside Texas about their tackles are good, interior they can struggle, and they're going to have to help on Murphy and Sweat. That's where even if you bring Anthony Hill up the middle sometimes, they're going to have a hard time.
No, I totally agree. Look, I mean, you'll know the game's going well for Texas if Oklahoma's having to help on the interior. I mean, that's when you know things are going really well for Texas, is if you're seeing – I think more Byron Murphy and Alfred Collins. The one thing about, if you go back and watch the Alabama game, the first quarter of that game, Texas defensive linemen their feet weren't on the Alabama side of the line of scrimmage. I want to see Texas' feet on Oklahoma's side of the line of scrimmage from the get-go Saturday. They're not playing against Baylor. That was a bad offensive line. This is a much better offensive line. But I want to see penetration early, and I think it's Murphy and Collins more so than Sweat. I think Sweat holds that point of attack, and he can get upfield. But I think it's Murphy and Collins playing on Oklahoma's side of the line of scrimmage. And if they can do that early, it's going to force Lebby and Oklahoma to make some decisions.
I think Oklahoma's going to almost forego the conventional run game.
Wow.
I think they're going to try to throw it outside and let the receivers try to be their run game. Yards after contact, get 3 to 4 yards, make it 2nd and 6 out there, as opposed to trying to beat Texas up between the tackles. They're not going to do that. To what Rod's point, you don't just all of a sudden become a good interior run team when you're playing one of the better run defenses in the conference.
And they watch the Alabama game. They know. These coaches are smart.
Hey,
they watch the Alabama game.
They'll try to throw it outside to create a run game. That will be their run game.
Hey,
maybe dump it down to the back.
I think Texas will be ready for that. Same time I watched the Washington football team not be able to stop 2 routes from DJ Moore last night. Hitch route, and what'd you say, Rod? A 9 route. They let him gain 240 yards. You still got to cover people. Hey, Patrick, throw it to break. We're up here at Terry Black's Barbecue, Main Street in Dallas, just east of 30. We've got a good crowd building. So come on out if you're in Dallas. If you're back in Austin, lock it in. Patrick, get us to timeout.
There you go. It's 512-447-3776 is the text line. Hit us up on the text line today. We're asking what quarter will be the most important for Texas against OU. Send that in. Any questions you got for any of the guys? Rob Babers in studio. Aaron Hogan out at Terry Black's in Dallas. We're going to take a break. We come back. We'll get some more Texas OU coverage right here on the Sports Complex on the Horn. 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex on a Friday afternoon, the special extended 3-hour Sports Complex for you, getting you ready for Texas and OU. It's a 5-1-2 Friday. Playing bands you can go check out around town this weekend. I know there is ACL Fest this weekend as well. So you may be going out to festivals. Some of these will be afterwards if you take off a little bit early. Some of these will be happening around if you want to go check out some local music and stay away from ACL Fest. This is Mama Hawk, and they're playing Friday tonight at Chess Club.
Nice.
So something you can go check out if you're not ACL Festin', or if you are and you decide I don't want to stay for the headliner and I'll get out of there early, and you can go check out this band and
Must be nice.
keep the party going.
Damn right. So music everywhere. It's music all over the place.
I mean, in Austin, there's always music. It is kind of annoying that this is the time of year that we get the nicest weather we've had in like 8 months.
Yeah, I would say of the year period. I don't know if 2023 has had better weather than today.
and then everybody's coming into town. You're like, it's not like this. Guys, we suffered all summer.
Damn it, you're
And
right.
they all come here, and then it's beautiful.
I forgot about that. So now damn it, you're right about that. We've been suffering through the worst heat wave, and then there's been no rain at all. And it just rained, like 2 days ago? Came down, rained cats and dogs, and now we got this beautiful fall weather. And yeah, people will be like, "It's always like this." I'm moving.
I'm coming down. They'd be like, rent's $5,000 a minute.
Oh,
Come on down.
I didn't think about that. Damn, Damn you, Patrick. You ruined a beautiful day.
Now we'll
me.
see. There is supposed to be another kind of cold front blowing through tonight, getting it a little bit chillier tomorrow. For if you want to watch the game, we'll be out at the Field House. Put on a hoodie. It'll be nice weather. Join me and Jacob Standard out at the Field House for the watch party tomorrow. Rob Babers, Aaron Hogan doing the pregame from 9 to 11 right here on the Horn. So you can check all that out tomorrow. We're going to be Aaron Hogan and Bobby Burton, Jerry Hamilton will rejoin us at the top of the hour. Rob Babers in studio with me today. Text line's open, 512-447-3776. What we say, you guys drive the show. I just try to keep it on the rails. We're asking today, what quarter will be the most important quarter for Texas against OU? What quarter for you? Is it first quarter quick start? You need that? Is it it's just going to come down to the finish? Got to finish strong? Is it going to be around halftime? You need to see them come out of the half? Tell us what it is. Tell us why on the text line. Shout out to Scarlett, says this is awesome. It's Rob B and Patrick D, my absolute faves. Y'all are flat out epic.
Oh, thank you.
Texas OU rivalry week.
So kind.
And she's going for, I've been telling them I want to have a nickname for Texas that's not as long. I don't like Red River rivalry. I'm not even a big fan of Red River shootout or anything.
Yeah.
It's all just long. It's a mouthful. So it's like my favorite, as I always said, is Bedlam. It's one word and it works.
Bedlam is perfect. It is.
Scarlett has been preaching all week. She's found out a thing called Maelstrom.
What?
It's a storm that
wow.
It's got all this stuff to it that she's gone. So she's going Maelstrom. She's sticking to it. I appreciate that.
Craig Way would appreciate that term because that is a very, you know what I mean? That's one of those SAT words terms.
Exactly.
Like I've never heard that before. It's pretty good. We always use State Fair Street. I use State Fair Street Fight because I'm with you. I don't like Red River rivalry. I don't like Red River Showdown. Obviously, shootouts are not. They're politically incorrect. Street fights are still cool. People film street fights and they go viral. But shootouts, obviously, everybody's against shootouts.
Yeah, we don't want this to be a world star.
There you go. There you go.
My man Chan. First quarter is what he says. You got to be strong. Show you that Texas is here to battle. He is still nervous, though. Chan's still nervous.
Is that for now? This first quarter is for Texas. And your question is about Texas.
For Texas, the most important quarter for Texas.
I think Oklahoma, the first quarter is the most important for them.
I agree too, because I think you have to take the crowd kind of out of it. I think you have to put some points up early because now we've seen Texas can play in the second half now. And if you added that to last year, Texas has a great season last year. Oh, if you add the second half performances they've had this year to last year, they're just fine.
They're winning. They might be in the Big 12 championship game. Yeah. This is the case.
Chief Engineer says third quarter we should be up 21-10, then step on their backs for at least 21. Then they never in a position to catch back up.
Okay,
calling a victory 45-21.
That's after they make the adjustments at halftime. The coaches go in, boom, come out, resurgence. I get it. I'm with him. I feel that.
We get another one for the border war. People like the border war for naming it.
Isn't there already a border war?
I think there is, though. I think there's other ones. It doesn't fit enough for us. Because the Iowa State or maybe no, it's Kansas City. It's Missouri and Kansas, right?
Yeah, there's definitely
it's like Kansas State,
war.
Missouri are one of those because it's right there in Kansas City, which is in both of them.
We need something unique.
We need to
Texas,
go.
OU.
Nate says, I'll go first quarter for Texas. It's the first quarter and OU still sucks.
You damn right. That. Always and forever.
fifth quarter, I'll either be happy drunk or depressed drunk. Yeah, fifth quarter is going to be good too.
Hey, you know what? Overtime. I mean, that could be a fifth quarter. Don't be, joking about that.
No,
Could
we're
be.
hoping. We're hoping not, because that was 2 years ago when there did not need to be one. But the game kind of turned around there at the end when Caleb Williams came in and things went downhill.
That's the thing about this game, though. The momentum shifts in the game can be
Yes.
big, and that's why I'm going fourth quarter for your question. Fourth quarter.
I think too. I think it's going to be. As much as I'd like to think that we're ahead and doing great,
Yeah.
the fourth quarter's been important in 4 out of the games this year,
Pretty much.
3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
So you say the fourth quarter, I think, against a really good OU team. I will put it on that too. Keep sending them in. 512-447-3776 is the new text line. Send those in. When we come back at the 6 o'clock hour, rejoining us from Terry Black's Barbecue in Dallas, Aaron Hogan, Jerry Hamilton, Bobby Burton. All will be out there. Rob Baber is going to be with us the whole show as well. Aaron Hogan will be with us the whole show, and we'll keep the sports complex rolling with your text. If you got questions for the guys before they take off, send that in. If you got questions for Rob Babers, Aaron Hogan, since they're joining me on a sports complex, send those in as well. And you know what? Final predictions. Give us your final score predictions as well for Texas. We always love getting those on a Friday. We're going to take one more break. When we come back, top of the hour, more Texas OU talk right here on the sports complex on the Horn 1019 and 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back in the Sports Complex here on the Horn on a Friday afternoon. Got my man Rob Babers in studio. Aaron Hogan out at Terry Black's Barbecue in Dallas. It is a big Texas OU preview show. Getting ready for the big game tomorrow morning. If you want to watch that game, I myself and Jacob Sander will be out at the Field House at the Crossover. Drink specials. Big screen TV. The weather's going to be beautiful. It's going to be a great time if you want to come out there and join us. And you can listen to the pregame show 9 to 11 right here on the Horn with Rob Babers and Aaron Hogan. We're going to keep talking Texas OU. It is 512 Friday. If you've not heard, this is Brody Lane. They're going to be playing Sunday at the Saxon Pub, doing a benefit show for Ham. So an awesome cause there and a good thing for some Brody Lane, which I know my man Rob Babers has heard.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
Has heard them rehearse. I've heard them rehearse.
Yeah, in the neighborhood, baby.
The neighborhood.
It's a fam. My people.
Let's throw it back out to my man Aaron Hogan out at Terry Black's Barbecue. I think they just, he needed a break in that last segment to get some more barbecue down before we continue the show.
Yeah. Food coma time is on board. It's too good. The food is too good. The people are great. Longhorn fans getting excited about this game and getting cranked up. And Terry Black's Barbecue is our location. We are right here on Main Street in downtown Dallas, East Dallas, the Deep Ellum area. So come on out. Plenty of parking, easy parking too, and then you can eat and hang out. And Bud Light is helping us get here as well. Terry Black and his team, and so much fun. And the Inside Texas guys are hanging out for a little while longer. Jerry Hamilton and Bobby Burton, they were here doing their live web stream on the On Texas Football Channel this afternoon, and were nice enough to hang out with us. What'd you guys order? What was your menu go-tos here?
Brisket and sausage sandwich.
There you go.
Jalapeno cheese sausage hit the spot for me.
Gee, and your son ate too, right? What'd you guys go?
Brisket sandwich all the way, a little mac and cheese.
Brisket is king.
Yes.
Brisket is king.
And too much sweet tea, which I'm still drinking right now.
That's perfect.
Hey, can I throw this out there for the brisket conversation real quick? This is going to be, I know people are going to say this is blasphemous, but I believe in the barbecue conversation that brisket is a little overrated. I'm just going to say that. I think ribs should
Maybe
be.
you've only been looking at Lincoln Riley's.
No. I've had the best brisket. I'm telling you, at all of my barbecue joints that I go to, and I frequent a lot of them, and Terry Black's is one of the best, of course. I just think the ribs are underrated usually, and the brisket. Not saying the brisket isn't great, but it's like Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley is overrated, but he's still great. He's awesome, but he's still a little overrated. That's all. He's not the king of rock and roll. He's just one of the founding fathers. That's all. Nothing wrong with that.
I would say this to you, Rod. It is harder to cook brisket properly than any other cut of meat.
That's true.
That's why it's a little bit of an art form mixed with savoriness, in my opinion.
Yeah, when you get the bark right.
You know what?
Yep.
That supports my theory, Bobby, that everybody can't do it good. So you can't just be eating everybody's briskets because it's so hard to cook. Just means you can't do it good. So my theory about it being overrated mostly is actually supported by your point.
Yeah, and Lincoln Riley needs help. He does need help with brisket because he does not do it. He does it as poor. It's almost as bad as his tackling on his team, for crying out loud.
Wow.
No, I don't think it's that bad.
But, I know this for Terry Black and their crew here. When I talked to Terry in the summer, he said, our big challenge right now, we only use prime briskets. We only use the prime cuts, and there's a shortage. They couldn't get enough of them for their spot, so he was having a hard time. But they're good. They're good now. It's come back home.
It was delicious. I just had banana pudding in the I got to be honest. I snuck a banana pudding in during the break.
Bobby heard long break, and we didn't see him for 15 minutes.
I went and got me a banana pudding.
Oh, man. It's like being a kid again right there. Did it have the Nilla wafers in it?
Yes, it did, with a little bit of whipped cream.
Oh, yes, sir. Terry Black's Barbecue, Main Street in Dallas. We're talking Texas OU. We're counting down the hours now, 18 hours to this game. Texas is favored, and people are confident. But, Rod, I heard you and Patrick talking during the last segment there. Where are you guys on this poll question? Most important quarter in this game for either team. What's the most important quarter for Texas for you, Jerry? What's the most important quarter for Oklahoma?
Most important quarter for Oklahoma is first quarter, no doubt about it. They have to have some offensive success and show they can slow down the Texas run game early. For Texas, biggest quarter is third quarter for me. Hopefully you win and you defer. You have a strong first half. You get the ball in the second half. And one thing, and I go back to one of my big keys for Texas in this game, where the recruiting has started paying off on the field, is being able to run the football when you want to and when you're forced to. And if you can start the second half and your big guys have been leaning on Oklahoma with a little bit of success, it sets you up really well for the second half. And that gets into when you want to run the football and take control of a game fully.
Bobby?
Fourth quarter for me. Ultimately, I think OU's going to start fast on offense. They have in every single game this year. It is their MO. Because of the tempo, teams take a while to get used to it. While Texas is I think, going to be the best by far defense they see all year, OU is known for quick strikes. They'll have some plays dialed up, not unlike what Lincoln Riley used to when he started this series. He would always come out with some new stuff that Texas hadn't seen in a little bit. So I fully expect that. Now, I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but that's kind of what I see. Therefore, the fourth quarter is when I think this game's going to ultimately be decided. And if Texas has a chance in the fourth quarter, I like the run game. I like the defensive line for Texas at the same time. Those two things combined give Texas a real advantage going into the fourth quarter. If it's tied, close, what have you. That's what it's going to take.
I heard you talking earlier, Rod. Rod, you now watch some film. You watched some of the Iowa State game while you're holding your baby and changing diapers and whatnot. What did you see from Oklahoma that in your tape study this week that gives you pause as a Texas fan? And what did you really like seeing as a Texas fan that maybe Texas can go after on both sides of the ball?
Saw more things that I liked versus Iowa State. I mean, that first half, Iowa State, which is at this point, I mean, they are talent. They had a talent deficit, if you will, because of the gambling scandal. They're at a point now where a lot of guys are playing that they didn't expect to play, still trying to find their way. But their the first half game plan, and even their opening script versus Oklahoma was really successful. They had 3 runs of 15-plus yards in the first half, and they had 3 passes of 15-plus yards in the first half. You're talking about 6 explosive plays, big chunk yardage plays down the field, 51-yard touchdown reception, 60-something yard reception as well. And in the second half, Oklahoma did a great job of making adjustments. They only had one, I would say, one completion of 15-plus yards in the second half. But there are a lot of things that they put on film that I think Texas can not only replicate that Iowa State did, but I think they can actually, take it to the next level and really stress that Oklahoma secondary and defense. They make a lot of plays on the football, though, and they've been doing it all year. They lead the NCAA, lead the college football all over, tied, I believe, with 10 interceptions. So that's big. Texas doesn't turn the football over, but in this game, crazy things happen. If Texas ends up being a little turnover prone somehow, that could really flip the odds of this game.
Yeah, highest ranked team, Patrick, that Oklahoma's faced is 51. That is SMU. And that game was 14-11 fourth quarter and a little tighter than it needed to be. And obviously, Texas has been there too with Wyoming and Kansas at one point, but Kansas is a ranked team. Kansas, double high rank, twice as highly ranked as the best team Oklahoma's played. And they played a couple teams in the hundreds. They played Iowa State, as Rod just mentioned last week. So this is their big step up. So, Patrick, for both teams, it's the best quarterback either team has faced, and certainly for Oklahoma, this is the best team that they've stepped on a football field with.
Yeah, it is. And something to be said about what Texas has been able to do this season is that even if Ryan Watts is out, the rotation they've been running on defense has seemed to keep the defense much fresher in the fourth quarter. And when we talk about this matchup, you know that OU's a year behind Texas in just bringing in these players and bringing the talent. They don't quite have the same depth. So I think that fourth quarter is going to be very vital for Texas because it is where you're going to be a little bit more fresh as Texas, especially on that defensive end where you can kind of keep rotating and you'll still have defensive linemen that are coming right at Dylan Gabriel. You'll still have cornerbacks that can cover the ball, and hopefully you'll still have safeties that can go deep and try and stop the long ball. But in reality, I think that rotating defense for Texas has been a huge adjustment to kind of keep them fresh because they now have that depth. I don't know if Oklahoma has that depth to be able to really dig down in that fourth quarter. So I think the fourth quarter could be big, and it's something that Oklahoma hasn't faced yet because they're playing teams that don't have the initial depth, much less the guys behind that.
I think that's interesting. I read an article on Inside Texas this morning. I can't remember who wrote the article, but it pointed out that the great linebacker for Oklahoma, Danny Stutzman, has played like almost 300 snaps this year. Jalen Ford just over 240. Those are the two best players on either defense, and it shows you that there are only 3 guys on the Texas team that have been on the field for 75% of the snaps in 3 different games. But I do think, Jerry, and you could agree or disagree, that they tighten it up a little bit tomorrow.
I agree.
Tighten it up, and this is where you've kind of been saving Jalen Catalon maybe for a big game here. We saw him in the Alabama game play a lot more snaps, make sure he's healthy. Do you think it tightens up a little bit, even with the Ryan Watts injury, seeing your best players on the field, and they still should be fresh knowing the bye week is coming up?
No, I do expect them to tighten it up a little bit more. They did in the Alabama game. More so, and I expect that tomorrow against Oklahoma as well. I'll tell you another big point to that, guys, is discipline on the field. Look, how many times did you watch Alabama when Nick Saban was in his runs and say Alabama never beat themselves?
Never.
Ever, right? You can't count on one hand the times they got a 15-yard penalty at a crucial time. I think one of the things I expect Texas to tighten it up a little bit tomorrow as far as the rotations. I think penalties, Rod, are handling the emotion, especially early in this game. That's why I said first quarter is Oklahoma's most important quarter. They are a much more penalized team than Texas is. A considerable amount.
That's right. Even against that competition.
That's right. And they haven't been pushed to the limit physically yet either. They're going to be pushed to the limit physically tomorrow. How do they handle that? And Texas has been unbelievably disciplined this year. They were unbelievably disciplined at Alabama. Do they control their emotions and not make the first couple of dumb penalties tomorrow of the season? I think that's so critical for Texas because when you come in with advantages, and Oklahoma has to play the closer to A-plus game to win than Texas does tomorrow. Texas is a better team. But the one thing that can negate that is if you get yourself off schedule with penalties, you have dumb 15-yard penalties, your emotion takes over, and you do some uncharacteristic things to the point this season.
Agreed. Bobby, do you think it tightens up? Do you think, because I have said, and I talked to Jerry and Rod about it this morning, I picked Jalen Catalon to be the Viking defensive player of the game.
Great call.
I think he's, and again, part of it is I think they've been kind of saving him for this, to really get after it. But he was at Arkansas for 3 years playing against the Kendall Briles offense in practice every day. He knows this offense, and he's a football junkie. He's a football IQ guy. He's going to have some things for Oklahoma and Jeff Lebby, knowing the tendencies, knowing this offense. I think he can be a big factor in this game. In addition to Jahdae Barron, Jalen Ford, the guys we've come to know, this could be his breakout game.
I hope it is. I really think that they put him on a pitch count in many respects, other than Alabama, but a pitch count up to this point. And it's time to let him go a little bit. I think it's time for us to see exactly what kind of force he can be in the run game on a consistent basis. And I will go back to it. I really think they're going to try to throw the ball to the outside. They're going to try to get Dillon Gabriel completing 80 to 85% of his passes instead of just 75. And they're going to use that outside throwing game to try to move the sticks. They're going to try to get that to 3rd and 3 instead of 3rd and 8. That's just what they're going to do. And because I don't think Oklahoma wants to see Texas rush the passer with Anthony Hill, Ethan Burke, Jalen Ford. I just don't see it. I don't think they have the running backs. I don't think they're not great in pass pro at the running back position right now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so they're going to do what they can to stay out of 3rd and long. I'm just telling you now, if Texas gets them in 3rd and long early in this contest, it's going to be a long, long day for the Sooners and a really nice one for the Longhorns, because Texas right now with Pete Kwiatkowski, and Rod can talk to this especially, they have gotten so much better on 3rd and long right now. It's almost ridiculous.
Yeah, Rod,
1 year.
Rod, speak to those DBs, man. If Bobby's right, and I don't think they don't have a running back to 200 yards for the season yet. And they've really been a weird rotation for what they're doing with their running backs. If indeed that short passing game, those quick passes are their kind of run game to stay ahead of the chains. Big for Jahdae Barron, big for the corners, big for your position to come up and be physical.
Yeah, and I trust those guys to be physical. I mean, obviously Ryan Watts, if he's healthy, that's a big part of his game. Jahdae Barron has been fantastic, right? He's probably one of the most instinctive DBs in all of the conference, probably in the country, and especially the way he plays the run and the way he plays the quick underneath passing game. And also, I agree with Bobby. I think Jeff Lebby's smart enough to know that his running game right now is a little bit limited. Why would you, keep banging your head up against that brick wall? You can actually, if you're losing the numbers game up front, you can win the numbers game elsewhere on the football field, and maybe that's outside. And that's a natural, really kind of a natural adjustment for the veer and shoot anyway, is really to spread you out and try to stress you horizontally, and you can do that with that short passing game, which essentially ends up being a long handoff, the extension of the running game. So I think Bobby's on to something there too.
Yeah, agreed. And their running game is weird at this point. It's just we even talked to our Oklahoma insiders, and they don't get it. Coming into the year, you thought Javonte Barnes and
Marcus Major.
Who's the other guy? They got
Sawchuk.
Sawchuk. They thought Gavin Sawchuk and Javonte Barnes would be the 1-2 punch. Barnes is apparently in the Sawchuk's apparently in the doghouse. Marcus Major's under 4 yards a carry, but he's their leading ball carrier. It's a Tyree Walker, the kid from Las Vegas, had a big game against Tulsa that didn't play. It's kind of sounds like the Tom Herman years, where you're just not sure what's happening.
I'm telling you, I think they have issues in pass protection at the quarterback spot.
Well, that makes sense then.
Spot. And that's why Marcus Major is getting the majority of the carries.
Bigger back. He's the bigger back of them.
Bigger back and smarter, a little bit older.
Yeah.
And they are a pass-first team. They've decided if you have a quarterback that's completing 75% of his passes and is good with the long ball, be a pass-first team.
Yeah.
Go for it. You're scoring as much as anybody in the country right now, so I get it. I just feel like Texas has to come out ready to defend the outside pass and not get beat over the top. I don't think they're going to test Texas. If they test T'Vondre Sweat, that's not real smart.
That's especially with the line they have.
I wouldn't do it.
Well, Rod, then take that, and if that's the game plan, then we agree on that. From the defensive back side and the safety side, how are you? What's your PK game plan for that? I mean, you could win with the lighter box at that point. It feels like.
Texas has really good defenders in their with their rush defense. If they play with a light box, it'd be a light box with T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy and guys like Alfred Collins and Jalen Ford. You have some of the best rush defenders in all of college football. So Texas could end up, being just fine because they're not going up against a really potent running attack. Oklahoma's averaging less than 4 yards per carry. I think PK is going to start off with 2 high shells. That's 2 deep safeties, and initially deter Dylan Gabriel from a deep read and try to win the numbers advantage in the passing game. Because I agree, I think you shut down the deep passing game for Oklahoma. It really does handicap this entire offense. They can't beat you with the running game. It's not prolific enough. They can't beat you with the deep pass if you game plan against it. And then they'll have to beat you with the short to intermediate game. And we just talked about the DBs and their ability to close and make tackles in the open field on the short underneath passes. So I would take that game plan all day.
Yeah. He did that well, Jerry, with Cincinnati. And Oklahoma scored 20 points in that game. Now, they only allowed 6 because Cincinnati was not very good in the red zone themselves, but only 20 points. They took away the big plays and forced Oklahoma to go to the length of the field. And if Oklahoma scores 20 points tomorrow, Texas will win by double digits.
Yeah, I would think. If not, something's gone drastically wrong offensively for Texas, that's for sure.
A lot of turnovers, if that's the case. Yeah.
And that's the key. I mean, in this game, speaking of turnovers, I mean, look, you can handle a turnover in this game. You can't handle turnovers inside your own 30 in this game where you give away points.
Yep.
I mean, that's the key. I mean, to me in this game is turnovers will happen by somebody in this game tomorrow, but you better not turn the ball over inside your own 30 tomorrow where you're giving up 3 points at best or 7 points at worst.
Yep. And one thing I've noticed doing, and thanks to Bobby and everybody for letting me be a part of the watch along, the watch with us on Inside Texas and the On Texas Football Channel. It's been a blast. One of the things that and Rod and I have talked about this, Jonathan Brooks guts it up in there and takes off. C.J. Baxter sometimes, once he gets through the first line of defense, will dance a little, and then he'll get caught from behind. That scares me because Venables has seen that on tape. Let's chop this guy. Let's see if we can get the ball on the ground because sometimes he'll hesitate once he gets through the line. He's a young running back trying to learn to play at the college level to this speed. Those scare me when there's a big dude like a tackle or a lineman coming behind as he slows down to try to dance a little. Those are the ones that really worry you.
I think I want to say this. I think we'll continue to see Cedric Baxter get better and better.
I agree.
You got to remember he's a young back.
Sure.
He has talent and ability that very few people have because of his size. He's going to end up being 235, 200. I mean, he's going to be a big back and be able to carry the load. Whether or not he'll get a ball pop from look, Venables knows. I want to say this. Rod mentioned earlier that they're one of the best in the country at turnovers and creating turnovers. Venables knows that is how this defense can make up for some of what they're not.
That's right.
Is the turnovers. Yep. And so he is willing to risk a little bit to get a little bit in return.
He has to.
And so they will swipe at the ball. You're right about that, Aaron. They will give up 60-yard passes to Iowa State because they're going to gamble a little bit. That time they guess right is going to be a turnover, and then they're going to give their ball back to a quarterback that completes 75% of the passes and go on their way. That's their I think Venables in that way is playing to the strengths of his team with his defensive style.
I'm a firm believer, and we were talking about it on the live stream. Against a pocket pass quarterback, you want to bring pressure up the middle, right? You don't want him to step up and climb the pocket. I'm a firm believer tomorrow you're going to see Venables try to make Quinn Ewers move horizontally, laterally. He's been climbing the pocket. He's gaining more confidence playing in the pocket. How do you take away that confidence he's gained as he's matured as a quarterback? This is where I say Brent's going to bring the kitchen sink at this guy. I think he's going to bring a lot of outside pressures tomorrow and force Quinn to play laterally more than stepping up in the pocket.
The problem with that is I don't think OU has a guy up front that really can get pressure up the middle.
I think he's bringing corners. I think he's bringing everything tomorrow. He's going to be risky.
That's not up the middle.
No, I know.
That's not up the middle. That's forcing him up. That is right now. Look, Trill Carter. I want to put this out there. Trill Carter is a guy that would start for OU.
Correct.
Yeah, and he doesn't play much at Texas.
Yeah, he's playing more.
Yeah,
I will say that. But they are not. They will play a spirited game tomorrow, in my opinion. But they're not going to suddenly become pass rushers.
No.
Well, and
I
Rod,
mean, they may be effective. They may be play everything what they got, but they're not. To Rod's point, they're not suddenly going to become a great run team. They're not suddenly going to become a great interior pass rush team unless it deals with a cross-buck blitz with their linebacker, which has gotten Texas in trouble before. Jake Majors and DJ Campbell and even Hayden Connor have had trouble trading off on that.
Yeah,
that's the one that you're worried
communication. It's been better since that Rice game, but it's a great point. And Rod, you and I played the sound this morning of Colt McCoy on with Colin Cowherd yesterday. He likes Texas going away, but he did say, Brett Venables was the DC when he was facing him.
That's right.
And he said no one confused him more. No one threw things he hadn't seen before. That's obviously the game plan against Quinn Ewers is to throw him some smoke, throw him some things that make him hesitate and see if they can get something home.
Hey, the best thing about winning, being a 5-0 Oklahoma right now, not being tested, is that he's got a lot left in the bag.
Yeah.
He hasn't had to bring it out defensively.
at all.
All right, guys. You guys going to hang for a little while longer? Got another segment in? You got to get going.
I'm good.
All right, we're doing the roundtable thing. Rod and Patrick are in the Horn headquarters. We are at Terry Black's Barbecue in downtown Big D, Dallas. We are minutes from the Cotton Bowl, like literally minutes from the big game site tomorrow where College Game Day will be. Come on out and join us if you're already up here in Dallas and listening on the Horn app or however you're finding us, or if you're making your way here, plenty of parking, plenty of spots. Come on out to Terry Black's Barbecue, Main Street in Dallas. Coming back, Patrick and Rod.
Yep, we'll be right back here. 512-447-3776 is the text line. Keep hitting us up. We're asking you what will be the most important quarter for the game for Texas in this game. Hit us up, and we'll be right back with more of the big Texas OU coverage here on the Sports Complex on the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and at hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex on a Friday afternoon, a special Texas OU preview show with my man Rob Babers in studio. Aaron Hogan out at Terry Black's Barbecue in Dallas. It is still a 512 Friday, though, playing some local music that you can go check out live around town this weekend. This is DZ Brown. He is going to be out at Central Machine Works tomorrow night, so check out some DZ Brown tomorrow. He's always extremely talented. Every time I've seen him live, he always kills it.
I like this one. What's the name of it?
DZ Brown.
Oh, the name of this song?
The name of the guy. The name of the song is My Little Black Turbo 5000.
Okay. I like it, though. It's nice. It's groovy. I like it.
There you go. And we'll go rejoin our friend Aaron Hogan out at Terry Black's Barbecue. I know, Aaron, you spent some time out at the Astrodome and all of those good places as well.
Yes, no doubt. Is that where DC Brown's from, the Astrodome?
I think DZ Brown's from Manor, but he has spent time at Astroworld and he shouted him out at the beginning of the song.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a season pass to Astroworld for 2 summers when I was a kid.
Me too, baby.
I had a season pass to the what is the water park part of it?
Oh, it's called
Waterworld.
Waterworld.
Yeah.
Hey, nowadays, Rod Babers would have filmed this commitment going down the slide like 60 miles an hour wearing a Texas hat. That's what recruiting is nowadays.
Oh, man. You know what? With ACL Festival in town this weekend, the first concerts I ever saw were at Astroworld. They had a concert series one of the summers. So I saw Bryan Adams come on tour and his Cuts Like a Knife tour or whatever that was. Those were my first concerts. You'd be riding the Cyclone and then go see Bryan Adams or whoever was rolling through there. And that really started my live music affinity, which is pretty cool, too, this weekend with the weather turning, ACL Fest, and Patrick spinning the jams. Think about that. You've got some of the best bands in the world at ACL Fest for 3 days, and then still great live music all over Austin, which is pretty darn cool. We're live here at Terry Black's Barbecue in downtown Dallas, Deep Ellum, Main Street, east of downtown Dallas, but it's still considered downtown. And I wanted to, before Jerry and Bobby have to peel out because they've been here since 1:30 or so. Thanks to Alice, by the way, the manager here at the Dallas location. She's been phenomenal, helping us out, set up, and Terry Black is here and in charge, but takes good people, takes a staff. You had a staff, Bob, at your restaurant, Bobby.
Yeah, no, I get it, and I think that you can tell when people are helpful and like truly want to help, as opposed to this is my job.
Yes.
They want to help.
Yeah.
It was really nice today to see, because not only did one person come out, like 3 or 4 came out, and Jerry and I, as you mentioned, have been here since about 1:30. It's just a nice spot. I mean, I like how they've got it shade. They got shade with the overhang. They've got nice old wooden tables that people feel like they're kind of at home.
Yep.
Hanging out in the backyard like an old beer garden almost.
Exactly.
Down in New Braunfels or something.
Yeah, and there's an upstairs patio where you get the sunshine if you want. Inside, it just keeps going. Really cool spot. Terry's done a heck of a job. But, Jerry, while we got you, for our audience that's driving up here or listening back in Austin or on the Horn app, wherever they are, the recruiting side of this. We talked to you this morning about it. That is your specialty as the senior recruiting analyst. It's a huge game, but more for the class of 2025 and 26 than even what we're doing in 2024.
Yeah, I think it's much like the Texas game at Alabama. Everybody was looking at the visitor list, all the kids coming into that game that Alabama was bringing into the game. But the majority of those kids are 2025, 2026, so juniors and sophomores in high school. And where that win was big for Texas and Tuscaloosa is with younger kids in the Southeast region. And tomorrow, it's an 11 a.m. kick. Kids have games on Friday night. You have homecoming. You have a lot of things going on this time of year. A lot of the hay's already in the barn in the 24 class. And so the majority of these kids that we've put on the visitors list at Inside Texas this week, they're all 2025s, 2026. Even the best 2027 kid in the country at wide receiver at DeSoto has 30 offers. He's coming to the game. So it's a really showcase game once again for Texas for the future recruiting classes. Now, I just dropped some news on Inside Texas before he came on air. Xavier Filsaime, the safety, 5-star safety out of McKinney. He's originally from Orlando, Florida. He's committed to Florida. He's going to the game tomorrow. So Texas will have a couple of 2024 targets in attendance they're going after, but by and large, we're talking juniors and sophomores. And almost all of the top junior offensive linemen in the state of Texas are going to be at this game tomorrow. Michael Fasusi, who's a stud tackle up at Louisville. The kid I saw at DeSoto yesterday is about 6'7", 385. All those kids, Ty Haywood at Denton Ryan, all those top offensive linemen are going to be in the Cotton Bowl on those Texas tickets tomorrow, and they all see what Sarkisian and Flood are building with large humans. Like Byron Washington said at DeSoto yesterday, Aaron, I see a lot of guys like me at Texas right now, and that's what I like about it. Nobody's as big as he is, but at least they're somewhat the size.
Maybe Cam Williams comes close.
There's a couple of 17 shoes, maybe not 18s.
Yeah, that's a big boy. I saw that picture. And then you said earlier that he said that everybody in Dallas is going to Texas. I think that's a huge statement from a junior in high school.
That's how much just changed under Sark, Aaron. That's a great point. I mean, look, Tom Herman, to say he struggled in DFW, be very nice, and it's a Friday, so I'll be very nice. But it was a disaster. And Sark and Jeff Banks knew coming in they had to repair some relationships in the DFW area, and they had to win in DFW because they knew the talent. Because they were at Bama, they recruited all the same players, they recruited all the same schools. They knew how much talent was coming up in the next 3 classes in Texas, and they had to win big in DFW. And they done so. I mean, we talked about it early. Anthony Hill, a flip from A&M. Manny Muhammad picked Texas over Bama. The night before he commits to Texas, Nick Saban's on the phone with him an hour and a half trying to get him not to commit to Texas. You just go down the list, Jonte Cook. I mean, those are huge. Colin Simmons in this class at Duncanville is the best edge pass rusher in the country. So they've had some huge wins in Dallas, and a lot of those kids are going to be on the field looking to make big plays, some of them for the first time in this game tomorrow.
Rod Babers, that's big because you've had the numbers that Atlanta, the Atlanta area, the biggest recruiting base right now for recruiting players that end up playing on Sundays. Dallas and DFW right behind them. And if you can have an Alabama win where you solidify some relationships in the Deep South because you just beat Alabama at Tuscaloosa and then follow it up with a win over a 5-0 Oklahoma team to solidify some things in the DFW and these big Texas recruiting battles with Oklahoma. That's really, really they could go win the Big 12, but maybe bigger the recruiting wins that you put together for the future.
Well, you see probably, between the two, 100 kids that are going to have Texas offers will have seen 2 big wins.
Yeah.
Right? Jerry, the Xavier Filisimi guy is that's a big knock because Texas doesn't have that second safety in this class. I don't undersell that because I would say this. Texas is not – Miles Davis out of Converse Judson is a player that Texas has talked to and been looking at. He's committed to A&M. He's potentially looking at changing from A&M. But if a safety better than Miles Davis comes along, I think Texas is going to take a long look there too.
Yeah, no doubt. And this is what Sark and the staff have done. They I call it recruit through the whistle. They evaluate through the whistle. And they fill their needs as they go. They don't walk away from A-list targets. Xavier Filisimi from Orlando. Everybody just thinks, okay, nobody's surprised he committed to Florida. Everybody thinks he's heading back to Sunshine State for college. But he's a guy that's a talented enough prospect that you give it a run. You give that recruitment a run. That doesn't mean you're going to get him, but you give it a run. And that's where I like what this staff does. They recruit the best of the best. They don't go to the B list of targets. And, look, there's guys, we haven't talked about it. There's a big game in College Station tomorrow, too, that impacts recruiting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
absolutely.
Look, if the rumors are true and Jalen Milrow's not 100%, that's a big game. There's 2 huge games in this state for recruiting tomorrow. The one a few miles away and the one in College Station. It doesn't get much bigger in this state than Texas and OU playing and Alabama visiting A&M 3 hours later.
Yeah, that's huge. Rod, your thoughts on the recruiting effort by the Longhorns?
I think it's been great. I love Sark's focus on premium positions. In the NFL, we talk about the value of positions all the time and more about the devaluation of the running back position. But, you look at left tackle at the University of Texas, that's a premium position. You look at quarterback, premium position. Wide receivers, a premium position in the NFL. Cornerback is considered a premium position. All these positions that are geared towards and around the passing game. And Sark, he's an NFL guy, got some NFL background as well. You can already tell that the premium positions of the NFL is something that he also values in his offense. And it could just be because it's a lot of pro principles built within his offense. But that's why NFL coaches like his rosters, because all the guys he has now that are playing at a really high level that he has prioritized, they are also the premium position the NFL prioritizes.
Hey, Rod, I want to ask you about this because you're the only one that can speak to it. I've talked to guys like yourself over the years about it, but what happens when you start stacking talent on a roster? It's not that you're looking over your shoulder, but the competition makes you better Monday through Friday before the game on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean it's from both ways, right? You got it where you like I got a chance to practice up against Roy Williams, B.J. Johnson, and Sloan Thomas every day. So those guys had NFL Sunday skill sets, came in as 5-star receivers. So I got a chance to cultivate my skill set up against NFL caliber players every day. And I knew that if I could lock down Roy Williams in one-on-one, then there weren't a lot of guys in the game that were going to give me trouble. And that's how I could really, really refine my skill set. And on the other side of that, when you bringing in guys like Michael Huff and Cedric Griffin and Nathan Vasher, guys who have a probably higher upside than Rod B. Let's be honest, Rod. It's straight up. Those guys had high upsides to me. Were drafted higher than me for a good reason. But it pushed me to be the best player that I could be. I had to keep my job. I had to work harder than those guys. I had to stay longer, watch more film, and had to perform at a higher level. Otherwise, they take my job. That's what that iron sharpens iron mentality does for a team. When you start stockpiling that kind of talent, where the practices are way tougher than the games because you're going up against elite talent and NFL caliber players down to down and in practice every session.
That's what's happening at Texas right now.
That's it.
Well,
Rod, you can't. If you go back, so I've been following Texas for 30 years professionally, right? You go back to the early 90s, and the team wasn't that talented. Mac Brown comes in. Randy Rogers and John Makovic had started to add in some people like Leonard Davis, Mike Williams, Casey Hampton, Sean Rogers. All those guys were there with Rod, right?
Yep.
They were there before Rod and those guys got there. Those guys are very similar. Look, Leonard Davis and Casey and Sean may be better than Byron Murphy and Christian Jones and Jalen Ford and those guys. But Steve Sarkisian is adding the same level of talent in the recruiting classes. And so there is a path right now that is very promising for the University of Texas.
Yep.
And that more than anything has got me excited about the future of Longhorn athletics. It's not just going to the SEC for me, because I think you're running the gauntlet when you go in the SEC. Everybody knows that.
Yep.
But you go to the SEC with the right pieces, you're competing for national championships.
Well,
that's the key.
And I think that's a bow on top of that conversation. And Jerry, you've said to us many times, I've heard you say it many times, great players want to play with great players.
That's it.
And they want to play in the 12-team playoff, and they want to
That's
play
it.
in the SEC. Texas now checks all those boxes.
They check all those boxes, and that's why this move is huge. I mean, look, Texas is not having the success recruiting in the state of Florida they are without the move to the SEC. No chance. I mean, there's just no chance that happens in the state of Florida right now. Those kids have been going. Look, I mean, you look at the recruitments that are won. I mean, Cedric Baxter was an FSU fan, but still, I mean, you're talking Alabama, you're talking Florida, you're talking Georgia. I mean, you're talking all those programs that you're having to beat for these kids. All these kids have grown up watching the SEC dominate the national championships outside of Clemson, the awards, the NFL draft. That's what they know. Now, their parents can tell them a different history, but the kids know what they know. And this move to the SEC has opened so many doors in recruiting. I mean, Bobby, Arch Manning, throw him out the window. That's different. Derek Williams. If Texas isn't moving to the SEC, do they really, truly get Derek Williams? Colin Simmons was going to an SEC school. He told me that when he was a sophomore in high school. The first time I went to Duncanville to actually sit down and talk with him, I'm going to play in the SEC. And he was going to play in the SEC. And
now Texas is headed there. Guys, thanks so much. We'll send it back to Patrick. I know you guys got to scoot. You've been here a long time. It's been a long day. You were at the golf tournament this morning out at Fire Wheel with all the Texas X's. That's a blast. You guys have done a great job today. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Aaron,
awesome.
Thank you, and thanks to Terry
Black.
What a great place and great venue.
Absolutely. And we'll be on the watch-along, on Texas watch-along tomorrow and on Texas football during the game. I'll be hosting with Jerry's going to check in from the stadium.
I'm going to check in from the
stadium. The game.
Yeah.
Bobby will be there. Rod will be there. It'll be great. So watch along if you're not in the Cotton Bowl. Patrick, we'll let you take it to the break.
There you go. Aaron Hogan out there. Thanks to the guys, Jerry Hamilton, Bobby Burton, for joining us for this special Texas OU Sports Complex 3-hour edition. Rob Baber's still in the studio with me. We'll be back. We're going to keep reading your text. 512-447-3776. What quarter for you will be the most important for Texas against OU? Your final score predictions. How are you feeling? Is anybody picking OU other than the Sooner fans? I know I've had some on here during this week that some Sooner fans texting in. Do you guys think you're going to win? If you're a Sooner fan listening, text in 512-447-3776. We'll come back, read some more texts. Some good news I'll give you for the Rangers and for the Cowboys. Some good injury news I just read. So we'll get to that and more Texas OU talk as we come back on the Sports Complex on the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex on a Friday afternoon, doing a big Texas OU preview, man. Aaron Hogan out, Terry Black's Barbecue in Dallas, getting a feel for the city night before the big game. Rob Babers in studio with me, and it is a 5-1-2 Friday, so we're playing local music you can go check out around town this weekend. This is Brian Scartocci. He was playing Saturday at the White Horse. Gives you that old soul feel. Brian Scartocci does. He's one of the best at it. Does such a great job. We are going to have getting your text going 512-447-3776. You got my man Aaron if you got questions for him, or Rod if you got questions for him. We'll try and get to those. We are asking the big fat poll today, what is the most important quarter for Texas going to be against OU? We're trying to get your final score predictions as well. All of that coming up on the show. We'll keep it going. Tomorrow, if you want to catch me, I'll be out at the Field House at the Crossover for the watch party. Pregame with Aaron and Rod, 9 to 11 right here on the Horn. I think that covers all of our bases, Rod.
I think so, man. And shout out to my man E. Hogan for putting in the work. Did the morning show with me, then drove to Dallas, down there at Terry Black's. Now he does get to eat at Terry Black's for like 6 straight hours, so that does help. But he's driving back for the pregame, so he's working hard to make sure. And my man Patrick's working hard too, because he and Jake are going to be out at the Field House to make sure we got all our bases covered. So if you need somewhere to watch the game, whether you're in Austin, whether you're hanging out in Dallas, you need somewhere to hang out with the community, with the family, we're trying to take care of you.
Yes, we want to be everywhere. Going back to the text line, we're getting all of our text in that we're asking you about the quarter. We get another first quarter and a nice picture of some Oklahoma Sucks beer. Can't go wrong drinking a nice Oklahoma Sucks beer. I've had the beer. I don't think I've ever drank it, though.
I've seen it.
Someone's bought me a 6-pack, and I've had it, and then I just sat my friend, and I didn't want to open it.
I got to say, I've never drank it. Is it good? I'm not saying it's bad. I've never drank it.
No, neither have I. I've had them in my hand, but I've never drank one.
You know, it's a good brand, though, because OU does suck. So it's a consistent brand.
It's a truthful brand.
It's tried. Yes, it is tried and true. No doubt.
Final score, 41-27. The problem is I don't know who wins. I think we
wow.
Come on.
You don't know who wins.
You think Oklahoma's putting up 41 points? That's to me,
they can score, just they haven't faced a defense like Texas.
Yeah.
I don't know if they can score that against Texas.
Yeah, if Texas allows 41 points,
then that means
it's going to be a bad day.
That means this defense, this has been a Fugazi. If they score 41 on Texas, that means everything before this that we've seen it may have been, not substantive. And I don't believe that. I think the Texas defense is for real, but they're going to test that secondary. And if they can get some deep balls, maybe they'll get some cheap scores.
You're going to get a lot of deep balls. Get up 47.
Yeah, because I don't see them running the ball to get 47, 40 points on Texas.
Yeah. We get this one 41-23 OU. So Texas beats OU 41-23. Fourth quarter, Arch gets his first game action.
No way.
I don't think Arch is coming in this game. I think Malik still comes in this game if it comes down to that point.
I mean, they was beating them. You got 49-0 last year, and Quinn stayed in the game for a long time, right? They did get to the third string quarterback though last year, I believe.
Yeah,
I believe they did.
If they do it, if they do it, it's just to stick it to Oklahoma.
That would be it. Yes.
It's just to say they're going to say, well, we want Arch to play in 4. So if we're going to put him in so he can play in 4.
I mean, you could technically save the red shirt, but I just don't see that happening.
Oklahoma, but you would still save the red shirt even if you play him. I don't think he's at 4 games.
You're right. I don't think Oklahoma will be that bad.
Yeah.
Where Texas will have a chance to put in the third string quarterback. If they do, Brent Venables is on the hot seat immediately.
Yes.
If it's that bad.
Coach Rodney from Rosebud Live says third quarter adjustments that work and make Texas look like number 3 in the nation. I might start sipping Kool-Aid if that happens. If you're not sipping Kool-Aid after Texas runs through the hardest part of their schedule undefeated, I don't know what it's going to take for you to sip some Kool-Aid.
Yeah, you just don't like Kool-Aid then.
I'm telling you, we're going to be drinking a swimming pool full of Kool-Aid if they can come out and play well against Oklahoma.
Honestly, I'm already pretty much drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm not wasted on it, but I've been sipping on the Kool-Aid after that Bama game. I think we all started sipping a little bit.
We get the most important quarter for Oklahoma is the first quarter. They need to prove to themselves that Brent Venables changes are applicable against Texas.
And they're really good in the first quarter. They're leading the country in first quarter point differential with 15.
Yes.
So they're really good.
And for Texas, it's the second quarter. Like you already said, Brent Venables is going to throw the kitchen sink at us. Second quarter is when Texas will be able to adjust better. And I think if you could go with the second quarter, that if Texas is able to withstand an early storm from Oklahoma, kind of get through that opening script and still play really well.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're still going in it and scoring, if they're consistent through the first and second quarter, and then we know they can come out and have that big flurry in the third or fourth, that would be a big coup for Texas there.
I agree with you on that. Yeah, because they haven't had the fast starts this year. They've had the strong finish.
They have.
Yeah.
We're going to take one more break. Before we get to the top of the hour, 6 o'clock hour, Aaron will rejoin us out at Terry Black's in Dallas. More with Brad Babers, more with myself, more with you on the text line 512-447-3776. All that on the Sports Complex in the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Hour 3 of the Sports Complex on a Friday afternoon, getting you ready for Texas OU with my brothers, Rod Babers, Aaron Hogan, out at Terry Black's Barbecue in Dallas. Giving you all the coverage you need. I did tease this, so I want to get to it. There is some good news for Dallas fans. Dallas Cowboys, Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, Tyler Biotish, all off the injury report.
Nice.
They're all clear for the big game happening. That's going to be part of drinking the Kool-Aid if you're a Cowboys fan, and that big weekend where everybody's going to overreact on Monday. All those guys are off, so the offensive line is the healthiest it's been all season is what they're saying in Dallas. And the other good news is Max Scherzer talked to the press today. He says he's feeling good, trusting the rehab process, but he is not ruling out coming back in this playoffs for the Texas Rangers. So good news for Dallas teams. I previewed that. I didn't want to let that out. Also on the text line, 512-447-3776. We're asking you what quarter will be the most important for Texas. And speaking of Dallas, my man Aaron Hogan out at Terry Black's Barbecue in Dallas as well.
D-Town.
Out of D-Town.
Yeah, man.
The news are got to be happy out there for the news in Dallas.
Yeah, I was listening to some sports talk, the ticket and the fan driving up and previewing the Rangers series. And that's big for Scherzer. You wonder if he could be a part of their bullpen, because their bullpen's been so bad this year. You wonder if that's kind of his role. That'd be huge for them. Do they get big innings from him late in games? But you also have to remember Scherzer's under contract for next year, and they don't want to do a Justin Verlander where you try to bring him back and he gets hurt for next season as well. But either way, they're here, and so if he can go and you can use him, I think you have to in this spot against a really good Orioles team. And for the Cowboys, man, if they can block up front, and we know this game is a big spotlight on Dak Prescott and his ability to score some points. Man, what a weekend. Kenny, we're like drooling, not only over the Terry Black's Barbecue that everybody's enjoying here, but the football and sports weekend. It is runneth over.
Yeah, no, it's sportsgasm stuff. And I know Patrick, who is now a Texans fan again. I haven't gotten your thoughts about the Texans and C.J. Stroud, but they get to play Bijan Robinson in Atlanta. It's a nice little connection. At least the Texans are fun to watch again.
Hey, man, those last 2 weeks have been so much fun to watch.
Right?
It was surprising fun because you weren't expecting anything.
Very true.
And then it was just fun to watch.
It's like found money.
Yeah, you get the Astros are in the playoffs too. Hopefully they're starting to look better in the playoff series. By the way, I'm sure that the Rangers game, they play at noon tomorrow. I'm sure that'll be on out at the Fieldhouse too. So you'll be able to watch the Texas OU game and keep up with the Rangers as well. That's one of the reasons you go out to sports bars and go out to those places so you can keep up with everything. It's going to be action-packed, and then you have the Astros game on with Ole Miss and Alabama, or not Ole Miss, A&M and Alabama. And that big game, it's another one of those. It's one of the many resume games for Texas, is what I'm calling them.
Yeah, no, you're right. You need Alabama. I mean, this is good. It's easy for Longhorn fans to root against A&M because Alabama winning helps the Longhorns' resume and how good it looks if Alabama keeps on winning. Because the story was that Alabama wasn't the Alabama of old, and they were going to have a really down year, and they still may have a down year. But right now they're winning at post Texas.
Yeah, I have that game. UCF is favored against Kansas. If Kansas can win, even if Jalen Daniels doesn't come back, it's another booster for the resume. And then Wyoming is playing number 24 Fresno State.
Ooh.
All of those are resume builders that you can also watch this weekend after the Texas game to see if Texas can kind of help their cause going forward. If these teams can compete at that level.
If Texas wins in a dominant fashion versus Oklahoma, they're going to leapfrog, I think, Georgia and Michigan for number one.
Well, it depends. If Georgia plays tight against Kentucky. Because Georgia's playing a Kentucky team that has looked really good. Ray Davis looked amazing last week. Put up 280 on the ground and 4 touchdowns, three rushing and a receiving. So if Kentucky goes out and if Kentucky, I think just keeps it within a score, then that's where you look at Georgia and say they're not the dominant team. If Texas handles OU, you may have to move them up. Michigan, again, they haven't really played anybody. They will later in the season.
Yeah,
so
they got time for that.
If they're for real, they'll be in the college football playoff no matter what. If they're not, they're not. But they'll be there. And same with Georgia. They will. Both of them will have their tougher schedule at the end. Texas kind of front loaded it, and then it's. If you can handle this week, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Yes, agreed.
Texas OU is tomorrow, so let's not get ahead.
Yeah, well, it is a great weekend, as y'all said, because it's all these. Texas is favored. They're the number 3 team in the country. They're favored over Oklahoma. Kind of a show-us game. They've already shown the nation they're pretty damn good. I think Kentucky is better than you think. They've covered every game this year. They dominated Florida. Ray Davis. What was the TV show that was about NFL players? There was a Ray Davis in that movie, wasn't there? That show it was on HBO or one of those.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
Ray Davis was one of the running backs. That's a dude, and Mark Stoops has built that program. It feels to me, Rod, that with Georgia, if you can tackle Brock Bowers and not let him get loose after the catch, like Auburn did in those big moments of that game, they miss A.D. Mitchell. I mean, they really don't have dominant receivers. Brock Bowers is the key, and he catches usually short passes, and he's just such a bull. He breaks tackles and can run away from people. If they can tackle him, I think Kentucky can be in that game. There's also the Ohio State-Maryland game that I think is a little bit sneakier than people are talking about, because Maryland is 5-0. They're playing really good football on both sides of the ball. They're top 25 in both offense and defense. They haven't played anybody. Same time, Ohio State's beating Notre Dame. Kind of fortunately, I like that game too. I think there's a lot of cool little, show me games, including A&M, Alabama, and Texas, Oklahoma. This is a really great college Saturday.
Upset alert too for a lot of teams, I think.
Feels like it.
Yeah, it does feel like you may have multiple upsets this weekend as well. Even was that Notre Dame Louisville game? Is that Louisville they're playing?
Yeah,
at Louisville. Yeah.
Notre Dame just run through a stretch of tough games where they barely lose that Ohio State game, then they have to play Duke the next week and barely win that one.
They see like they're teetering.
Yeah, I have Notre Dame this week just being pissed off at the scheduling. And being like, screw you, Louisville. You haven't played anybody. You don't deserve it. We're going to beat you. Sam Hartman's just really good, too.
He is good. I agree. He's got that veteran savvy.
That was a very fortunate win. As you and I have talked about, Rod, Duke had them 4th and 16, and if they get a stop, they win the game. Would have been 13. What was the final score? They were up in the game. All they needed is a stop on 4th, and I think it was 14-13. They were up 14-13. And if they get a stop on 4th and 16 on the game-winning drive, they win the game. Game's over. They take a knee. It's over. They win by a point and get out of there. Duke is the talk of college football. Instead, he scampers and runs gets the first down. Next play, the handoff, and the kid runs for a touchdown. They get the 2-point conversion, and they win 21-14. And, Notre Dame loses the big game at Ohio State on the last play. They pretty much win on the last play against Duke. Who knows what will happen with them against Louisville?
Yeah, it'll be there's a lot of fun to watch. You can join us out at the field house. They'll have all the games on all day long. Let's get back to Texas and OU, though, as that is the clear preeminent game. With this game, we know Dillon Gabriel is the guy for Oklahoma that you're all kind of looking at. Do either of you guys have a guy other than Dillon Gabriel that you think is the second most important? Where if you say Texas has the game plan for Dillon Gabriel, that's the guy. Who's the second most important guy you're game planning for, Rod?
Man, if you're just talking about game planning offensively for Oklahoma, it would have to be one of the wide receivers. I'd probably go with, Jalil Farouk worries me a little bit. He's a speedster. They got a lot of speed on the outside. They don't have a dynamic number one receiver like a CeeDee Lamb they've had in years past, Marvin Mims in years past, but they do have speed on the outside. The guy that impresses me the most overall, just on the film that I've watched, is Jalil Farouk. I think he's a player that they may try to get isolated. So I don't know if you need to game plan specifically for any of the wide receivers, but you need to game plan for the way they're going to weaponize them, which is with the vertical passing game down the field. So he's one. If you want to go flip the script and go to the defensive side for Oklahoma and somebody offensively that Texas probably should know where he is and even, I'm not saying avoid him, but how about the path of least resistance? There are other players and other areas to attack. Danny Stutzman, the inside off-ball linebacker for them, is a stud, pun intended. He is the real deal. He's a guy you probably want to try to stay away from. There are other ways to attack the Oklahoma defense without having to go through who I think is going to be an all Big 12 linebacker.
Yeah, he and Jalen Ford, probably you're right now. You're all Big 12 linebackers are both really good. And I'll also mention, Andrell Anthony, the Michigan transfer for them. I watched the Cincinnati game pretty heavily, and he was their go-to guy on every third down, every big play. Gabriel's looking for Anthony. And he's a big kid. He's a 6'1", 200-pounder. He can also run. They also have a kid, Nick Anderson. Rod, we've talked about the 6'4" kid from Katy who can run. He's really come on. He's a freshman. But he's gotten better as this year has gone on. He's one that can hit the big play. And you said something, Rod, that I thought, you say a lot of things that I think are interesting, but of them, the thought that the way Texas rotates their DBs and rotates their defense, Oklahoma will be looking for specific matchups that they've targeted and wait until they get a good down and distance with a specific matchup against a safety or a corner and try to, audible to the play and have a check call to it and see if they can create something. They're going to have a hard time going the length of the field over and over again against this Texas defense without a strong running game.
Yep.
They're going to be looking for those isolated matchups that they can hit on in key times of the football game.
Agreed.
Yeah, this is going to be and I want to go back to what we talked about earlier about when these strikes need to happen and those key moments of the football game. And something that Sark has struggled with pretty much his entire time in Texas is that first series. His scripts have always been good, but that first series, if you're Oklahoma, how much do you want Texas to get the ball first, where you feel you can get a stop in that first series, and then you get the ball to start the second half? Is this a game where the coin toss can mean something for Oklahoma, that it can come down to even the coin toss? Because I think if you're able to stop Texas on that first series and then come down and score and get the ball to start the second half and not let Texas come out of the gates in the second half, I think that's a pretty big advantage for Oklahoma. Whereas for Texas, if you get the ball to start the second half, it's good. But I don't know if Oklahoma has the same trouble starting a game.
Usually, most coaches that I know, they'll try to go, unless they have a really prolific offense or they want to make a statement, they win the coin toss.
Yeah.
They'll defer and try to put their defense out there, especially in an emotionally charged environment, in an emotionally charged game like Texas-Oklahoma. Defense feeds off emotion. It feeds off intensity. Offense does not. Actually, offense needs to operate in a more cerebral manner. Timing, efficiency, you need to operate in a more kind of pragmatic manner on offense. You can't just use emotion like to that extent. Offensive line maybe, but certainly not quarterback, certainly not wide receiver. So I wonder, even just with dealing with the environment, how unique it is. If I win the coin toss, I'm putting my defense out there first. Hey guys, go feast on all that energy and emotion in this that's palpable right now in this stadium, and the offense, it'll work against them because everybody will be hype, and there'll be so much noise at a fever pitch. It always is there, but I think early on it's tough operating with those butterflies, and defenses do a lot better operating with that emotional charge.
Yeah, Aaron, what would you say is if for Texas, how much does that coin toss matter for Texas, and how much does it matter for Oklahoma? Stop, Aaron.
Uh-oh.
Hey, sorry about that. I was chatting with the owner. Terry
There you
Black
go.
walked up. I had to make some time for him, and he said
you're
to thank everybody that's come out because he said, I can't even find a table. He's like, dang it.
It's good stuff.
Normally I can always get a table at my own place. But we filled the joint, and thank you to everybody that's come out here because, again, it's the perfect spot in downtown Dallas. The food's amazing, outdoor. And, I'm sitting, guys, right next to the pits, like literally the barbecue pit. So it's probably 20 degrees hotter where I'm sitting than anybody else. And there's a nice breeze. These pits are amazing. They're like 25, 30 yards long, each one of them. Come out of Dripping Springs, Texas, and that's where they make this amazing barbecue. But Terry was so nice to have us, and we filled the spot, and that's what it's all about. People are fired up here, guys. I mean, Terry just came by to say thank you that we chose to come and hang out with him, and so that's awesome. But the folks are fired up here, and as we talked about at the very beginning at 4 o'clock, it's almost too confident, Patrick. That's how you were talking. There's almost like there's too much optimism about this game, and I agree. But at the same time, I'm trying to find you hear Rod talk about paths to victory and ways to win this game. Texas has so many more. The way Texas loses this game, if Texas, shoots themselves in the foot over and over again. Other than that, I feel like they're in a really good place to win this football game.
Yeah, I do. My man, Chief Engineer, just brought it up on the text line, though. Texas special teams.
There you go.
Is this a worry for either of you that we've seen Auburn have some troubles in the kicking game? We've seen that they've muffed punts earlier in the season against Baylor. Is this something where we could see Sark go for it on a lot more fourth downs and not leave it up to a kicker? Is this a factor in this game that you think is something that Oklahoma could have an edge on if they're able to make their kicks, if they're able to come after? They blocked some punts already this year.
Yeah.
Is special teams an edge that Oklahoma could try and get an edge on?
I think you're right, Patrick. I mean, if you look at Bert Auburn struggling right now, he's inconsistent with some of his field goals, but Sark wants to stick with him because Sark says, hey, he thinks he's going to break through. Look at also, you talked about the muff punts. They even in that Baylor game, remember Keelan Robinson actually dropped one of the kickoff returns, but he recovered it. And, and we remember, that was a play a couple of years ago, Xavier Worthy bringing the ball out from deep in the end zone. This is one of those games where everything is amplified, including mistakes. We talk about the hidden yardage on special teams. Well, in this game, that hidden yardage can turn into pretty much obvious yardage for you. So I'm with you. If you're looking for somewhere where Oklahoma can gain an advantage, where Texas hasn't necessarily been stellar and consistent this year, maybe it would be special teams making some plays there. And I expect an exotic. They had the fake field goal last year. I'd expect something else exotic on special teams as well from Oklahoma.
I don't disagree, Rod and Patrick. That's a great point. And look, I mean, Brett Venables is a smart coach. He knows that they're kind of outmanned in some spots, and he knows that they don't match up in key places. So you're going to look on tape for the things that you can attack, that you can try to exploit, whether it's trying to strip a ball. Look for a guy. We talked about C.J. Baxter early, maybe sometimes can get stripped from behind or be vulnerable to that. They're going to be looking for those things. And, yeah, special teams. The Longhorns have been just okay. And I think they should they're iffy on special teams, but shouldn't be, right? I mean, they have explosive players back there on kick return, on punt return. They haven't blocked a punt yet. That's one I know that Jeff Banks and Joe D. Camillus, the advisor on that side, have to be looking for a Keelan Robinson on a gunner. But at the same time, Oklahoma's looking to get free yards wherever they can and create opportunities for short fields. They have to. They got to land some punches here against Texas. So agreed 100%. And so the Longhorns need to play a clean game in the third phase. And you're right, guys, that in this game, so many times that third phase becomes so crucial, whether it's bringing balls out from the 8 yards deep that you shouldn't have set a bad field position, or Jordan Shipley returning a kickoff for a touchdown in a 14-3 game that jump-started the Longhorns to a huge win over the number one team in the country. That phase is often overlooked. I'm assuming it's been a point of emphasis for Sark because it's been a couple weeks in a row that they've had some issues there.
Yeah, I imagine it is too. How about this? We're going to take our last break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more Texas OU. I want to bring up something about, we kind of mentioned earlier, about both coaches maybe having something left in the bag. I want to ask you guys about what you think could be a surprise in these games.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, take our last break before we give you up to Vandegrift versus McNeil at 6:45. We're going to take one more break here on the Sports Complex on the Horn, 101.9 AM 1260, the Horn app, and at hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex here on the Horn on a Friday afternoon. It's a 512 Friday, so we are playing local bands you can go check out all around town this weekend. This is Oscar Ornelas. He is playing Saturday at the Skylark Lounge, so you can go check him out as well if you're out and about, not at the festival, but want to see some great live music. We are wrapping things up here, but I still got Rob Babers. I still got Aaron Hogan out at Terry Black's Barbecue in Dallas. And I wanted to bring a tease before the break. I want to bring this up because it is something that I think is interesting because Texas has played some tougher games. They played Alabama. They played a Kansas team. But both those games, they didn't necessarily have to empty the trick bag. They didn't necessarily have to empty everything out to win those games. They were able to kind of stick to the game plan and win. This is the last game where you feel you might have to really do that until Big 12 title. So if it is close in the third quarter, fourth quarter, what tricks do you think Sark has? What tricks do you think Brent Venables may have hidden away? We know we haven't seen Keelan Robinson a ton. We kind of all thought that maybe he was going to be, used a little bit later in the season when people didn't see him, but that hasn't been the case. And Jonathan Brooks has taken over as a premier back.
Yep.
There's so many things that we see that we kind of thought they have not blocked a punt yet, something that Texas prided itself on.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that Texas may have up the bag, Rod? I'll go to you first.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll go more X's and O's because I did see after JT Sanders got hurt that Sark ran the Big 12 package, the extra 6th offensive line package, more than he has run it in any game so far since he's been the head coach / play caller at Texas. He may want to play some bully ball, so maybe you'll see them play a lot of that. You honestly, Texas could go with some. It sounds crazy. They could go with some 4 wide. They like jump. They haven't run 10 personnel pretty much at all since Sark has been here. But he did run it at Bama, but he had 4 first-round wide receivers that he wanted to run the 10 personnel with, which is 4 wide receivers on the field, 1 back, 0 tight ends. But you got X-Man, you got A.D. Mitchell. Those are 2 of the better wide receivers in the country. You got Jay Whitway Trust, and they're playing more Jonte Cook. Now, if you get to a point where J.T. Sanders can't play, or he says he's going to go, but let's say he ends up with, I'm knocking on wood, some type of injury and re-injures it in the game, he comes out, there could be a 10 personnel package to really try to blitz the Venables defense and see if they have the speed to really keep up with Texas with 4 wide receivers on the field potentially. Just spitballing. That's something you can see. From the Oklahoma side, I think you're definitely going to see it actually. You're going to see Jackson Arnold. Shout out to Tyler McComas who came on the show with us and brought this up, that Jackson Arnold, 5-star quarterback, has played some wide receiver this year for Oklahoma already, and he's got a special a quarterback power package they use in short yardage. If you watch that Kansas game and you watch Kansas light up Texas with the triple option, you would definitely put in a package to run a triple option with Jackson Arnold. That's a wrinkle I think you could see Oklahoma throw out early and often.
There you go. Aaron, what do you got?
Agreed. And on Rod's point, I love the idea. Go back to the Alabama game where Alabama had a freshman safety named Caleb Downs that they attacked quite a bit. And just a freshman in a big game like that. Peyton Bowen's a 5-star freshman safety from Denton Ryan. See if the Longhorns, especially with that spread package that Rod talked about, get a speed receiver like Jonte Cook on him and see if you can create something down the field. For Texas, I think the gimmick kind of plays are going to be, as Rod says, out of those personnel groups, and then throwing 10 new plays out of those that they haven't shown yet. Tendencies that they typically do. I've talked about that throwback screen to Jonathan Brooks that was really effective early. Maybe there's something that looks like that becomes something else that I think could be big because Oklahoma's going to over pursue that. For Oklahoma, Rod and Patrick, I just think they're going to try to buy possession. So if that's a fake punt in a 4th and 4 at midfield, something they're going to need extra possessions in this game, and that's either forcing turnovers or stealing one. Onside kick. Bob Stoops was always big on the fake punt. You know what I mean? Trying to gain a possession. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it blew up on him. But at the same time, I think Brett Venables knows he's kind of in that spot here to try to steal a possession or two.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something that I'm curious about, just because I know Sark's mentality enough that it never seems like he's doing anything just to do it. It seems like he's doing it to build on it.
Yeah.
That he has thrown the wide receiver pass twice this season already. I think he's tried it a third time, too.
He tried it 3 times, yeah.
So we know that he's gone to that several times. I feel like that's trying to set something else up other than that, and I don't know what it would be. But I feel like Sark may have that, and he may not pull it out in this game, but he's either probably going to try and go back to that, or go to something else building off of that.
The only thing I can think of, and this, I don't know if you would do it, but because it's risky, but it makes sense as a counter or something to build on that double pass, the throwback.
Yeah.
To Quinn, who's running a lot more now.
Yeah.
And then you do, and nobody's going to expect Quinn to catch a throwback, and then maybe you could do it and then have kind of a throwback pass to the quarterback, and he is a running. So instead of the double pass downfield, it's still be a double pass, but double pass back to Quinn.
Yeah, basically let
Quinn run that
sneak out a
wheel
little
route.
bit further,
Yes.
let everybody come
Yes.
over. And that's what I'm saying. I think it could be something where you could, instead of going downfield, go back across field.
Yeah, now that's risky because then Quinn's open to getting hit, but he's running a lot more anyway.
Yeah, and it's also risky to just throw the ball across a field with a wide receiver.
It is, but like I said, if you know it's going to be wide open, all the action is going one way, and you know he's going to be wide open, that may be the counter you're talking about.
Yeah, so those are some things that I think it's just, we know that this is a game. Brent Venables they haven't played anybody yet at Oklahoma, so they've got everything. We know the SMU game was closer than the number looks. But they really haven't had that much trouble. They haven't had to pull anything out. So you'll definitely see them, and they need it more. You know, when you're at a point where you are, when we've talked about it all week, and all week it's kind of going over the points, trying to, dot your I's and cross your T's and figure out if, somewhere in this equation we messed up, and clearly Oklahoma has the advantage here. And they just don't seem to have that advantage.
I got it, Patrick. I got it, Rod.
What is it?
Jeff Levy's going to call his father-in-law in out of the bullpen to call some plays. Come on, Art Briles is showing up, make everybody mad.
Yeah, and then Jeff Levy will be fired the next day too.
Right, right. After what happened earlier in the year, Art Briles out of the bullpen.
But, no, I know you're joking, obviously, but Art Briles is advising his son-in-law on
no doubt.
how to beat Texas, because Art Briles actually was one of the better coaches at finding a way to beat Texas, and he hadn't stopped watching football and hadn't stopped analyzing football. I guarantee you he's giving Jeff Levy a scouting report on what to do with his offense to veer and shoot.
No, he definitely is.
Agree.
And I'll tell you who else is. Bob Stoops is playing in that. They have some good ex-coaches that are helping Brent Venables plan, especially on the offensive end, I'm sure.
Yep.
And
Kendall's helping out. Kendall's on that conference call. They got a Zoom call with all of them.
It's a Zoom, and they all hate Texas. Stoops, and they all. Certainly Stoops and that 49-0 shellacking. They've been on Zoom calls all year.
Yep.
And then you get all Art up in there and Kendall and get the Briles clan.
They all hate Texas. Switzer jumped on.
Coach Bear is on there.
He's on there too. He just wants to talk trash on Texas. He's on there as well. So yeah, it's a big,
all right, Brent.
Zoom
all right,
call.
Brent. Here's what we're doing, Brent.
Speed and
Got to
quickness.
use speed. It's got to be speed.
all right, as we get to the end here, I know you got pregame show tomorrow from 9 to 11, so we don't have to do predictions or any of that. We'll save that for tomorrow. But what for you is the key to the game for Texas, where you say if Texas does this, then it's not a problem. If they handle their business, is it just focus? Is it just don't mess it up, or what? What do you got?
It's just win the lines of scrimmage. Yep. It's just that simple. That's the simplest way for Texas to win. If they dominate the lines of scrimmage, offense and defense, they will win this game no matter how it looks. It could look ugly. It could look pretty. It could be a blowout. If we're at the end of this game analyzing it in the post game and saying Texas won the lines of scrimmage, then Texas won the game.
All right, Aaron.
Rod's right on, but also don't give up big plays. I watched that Cincinnati game, and Cincinnati only gave up 20 points to Oklahoma, and they did it by not giving up big plays. They made them go the length of the field, and then they scored a couple touchdowns. It was really an even game, but Cincinnati couldn't find the end zone, and they settled for a couple field goals and then missed a field goal, went for it on a fourth down. Possessions-wise, pretty even. If Texas can replicate that defensive effort, which I believe they can, like Cincinnati did, that's 20 points they scored against Cincinnati. If that happens, Texas wins like 37-20, and I think they'll be fine. But don't give up the big play. You can't let them get over the top of you. Those quick shots are what'll get you.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that is kind of, it's the focus. Don't make the mental mistakes. They've been good so far that even on plays where one person has just made the mental mistake, they haven't had 2 or 3 guys do it.
Yep.
Where things start to go downhill very quickly. They haven't had that happen yet. I think that's it. If you focus and, you make one guy make it beat, but hopefully you have someone on the back end to try and help out. Maybe you let one big play go, but you don't let it steamroll into more and more things.
Yep.
I will tell you my predictions is I will not be on the pregame with you tomorrow. 38-16 Texas.
Ooh,
I think that
butt whipping.
I think Texas just I don't see the reason why Texas can't win this game handily.
Ooh,
I don't see why they can't. I know it's a rivalry game. I know it's there. History would tell you they won't. but I'm going to go with it. I'm still drinking the Kool-Aid.
No, that's a skunk. That's a Madden get off the stick game. If that's the case, Oklahoma Sooner fans are going to be upset because that would basically mean a borderline blowout back-to-back years. That didn't happen to Oklahoma very often.
Yeah, that's also saying that Oklahoma's going to be playing it risky, and so may miss some opportunities, some fourth downs that you get knocked out because they're going to go after it at certain points.
I can see that.
Well, and Patrick, if you're right about that, and your prediction's on point, and Alabama were to roll it up on A&M or beat A&M down in College Station, and Georgia even struggles with Kentucky, Longhorns will be number one in the country come Monday.
Yep.
And into their bye week at number one. Because if they win by double digits or that handily, 37-16, against another ranked team, that'd be 3 wins, double digits over ranked teams. If Alabama backs it up with what they do in College Station, Texas would move to number one, I think, because their resume would be too good, and they'd have a week off, and the easier part of their schedule coming.
Hey, good news is the BCS is not there anymore. It's college football, the bowls, the college football playoffs. So we won't get screwed in the way we've been screwed before after winning this game. We got to get out of here.
Though, I mean, if they win that game, they may play again. The second one, the one in the Big 12 title game, is more important than tomorrow.
Yep, it sure is.
You can win this one and lose that one. Rod knows about that in 2001 with Colorado.
There you go.
Sorry,
we got to get out of here.
Sorry, Rod.
Thanks to Aaron Hogan. Thanks to Rod Babers for joining us. HornFM.com for all the details of where we'll be at tomorrow. Until we see you, be kind, be safe, keep your underwear clean, and OU still sucks.